In a quiet hospital room overlooking the city, a young girl sat up in bed and carefully slipped a bulky virtual reality headset over her eyes. It was the final day of service for the MMORPG known as Midgard Life, and she prepared to log in one last time. As the digital world materialized around her, she transformed into her longtime avatar, Lily. Confined to a hospital by an unknown, rapidly progressing illness, she had been robbed of a normal school life and friendships. But here, within the vibrant landscapes of Midgard, the gift from her parents allowed her to roam freely, unburdened by her failing physical body. She spent her early days exploring the game's countless tourist destinations before finding her true calling. Utilizing the silk from a spider monster she had tamed, she dedicated herself to honing her sewing skills, eventually establishing herself as a skilled tailor. While her creations were never the top-tier armor sought by the most elite combatants, her charming designs found a steady audience. She built a respectable business, earning a loyal customer base and maintaining consistent, reasonable sales. Her talent even earned her official recognition, and she proudly displayed the trophies she had won in developer-hosted design contests on her shop shelves. Despite her real-world limitations, her life within Midgard had been deeply fulfilling. Standing outside her quaint, brick-roof shop, she gazed up at the digital sky. The time had come to bid a final farewell to the avatar she had cherished for so long, a bittersweet parting made heavier by the knowledge that her own time in the real world was rapidly drawing to a close. Inside the shop, she shared a quiet moment of reflection, her thoughts drifting to her parents. She felt a profound sorrow for leaving them behind so soon, acknowledging that the relentless speed of her illness had left them all with too little time. Pushing the melancholy aside, she offered a bright, genuine smile to one of her final patrons, expressing her deep gratitude for their continued support over the years. She waved enthusiastically as her loyal customer, Ankin, stepped out through the heavy wooden doors, exchanging final, heartfelt farewells before he departed. Alone once more as the server's shutdown loomed, she closed her eyes with a peaceful smile. In the quiet of her final moments online, she whispered a heartfelt thanks to the avatar that had given her a second life. Her digital world vanished in an instant, replaced by a sudden, absolute void as the connection severed. In the quiet darkness that followed, a year slipped by. Her physical body, long plagued by illness, finally succumbed, bringing her earthly life to a peaceful, painless close. She accepted her passing with a quiet resignation. Suddenly, her eyes fluttered open. She sat up, clutching the soft sheets of an unfamiliar, ornate bed. Confusion washed over her as she looked around the sunlit room, wondering if she was still trapped in a virtual simulation or a lingering dream. Slipping out of bed and wrapping the sheet around herself, she took a deep, effortless breath. The heavy, suffocating weight of her illness was gone. She marveled at her hands, realizing her body felt impossibly light and vibrant. Catching her reflection, she recognized the long, pointed ears and familiar features of her beloved avatar, Lily. Her attention was quickly drawn to a desk nearby, where a sealed envelope rested, addressed to her real name, Sasaki Yuri. Breaking the seal, she read the elegant script. The letter was from Yggdrasil, a goddess of life, who confessed a startling truth. Her fatal earthly illness was an accident caused by magical energy leaking from this very realm. The goddess explained that because the affliction defied earthly logic, it was incurable. Unable to resurrect her in her original world, Yggdrasil had crafted a new vessel for her here, offering a second chance at life. Lowering the parchment, she processed the revelation. She had been reincarnated into a realm of swords and magic, a world with monsters, but thankfully, no apocalyptic threats. It was a scenario straight out of the fantasy novel she used to read. Scanning the room, she noted the goddess's provisions. Bookshelves filled with magical encyclopedias and combat guides, alongside a month's supply of food. The letter even offered a way back to her old world through a specific room, but she hesitated. A warm smile spread across her face as she gazed out the window at the vibrant landscape. With a healthy body that could finally move freely, she resolved to embrace this unexpected gift and fully enjoy her new life. Clutching a simple white cloth to her bare chest, she quickly realized her first priority. She couldn't step outside naked. Glancing over the provided materials, she decided that securing proper clothing was her immediate goal. Scanning the cabin's storage area, filled with wooden crates and tall bookshelves, she discovered a mention of skill crystals. The text explained that these items allowed the user to acquire skills instantly, without prior training. Intrigued by the convenience, she wondered if such crystals existed for tailoring. Finding a small, faceted crystal, she held it up with a hopeful expression, questioning if this small stone held the magic required to craft her garments. Gathering rolls of fabric and spools of thread from the supplies, she prepared to test the crystal's power, noting to herself that she would likely need a pattern to guide the process. She threw herself into the work, pulling reference books from the shelves and laying out the materials. As she activated the skill, a sudden burst of magical energy erupted from the floor, lifting the cloth and thread into the air around her. The raw materials began to weave themselves together in a swirling vortex of light. Ribbons, fabric, and thread danced gracefully through the air, guided by an unseen, sparkling force. She watched the spectacle unfold, her eyes wide with absolute wonder as the magic did its work. With a final, soft pop, a beautifully crafted dress materialized and floated gently into her waiting hands. A warm blush spread across her cheeks as a profound sense of freedom and excitement washed over her, reminding her of the very first time she had logged into her favorite game. 3 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Now fully dressed in her newly crafted, multi-layered outfit and carrying a packed travel bag, she finally stepped out of the cabin. She had spent the time studying the world through the provided books and gathering her gear, weapons, a shield, and the goddess's pocket watch. Her first destination was set, the nearest town, Naced. Looking ahead with a confident smile, she resolved to learn everything she could about this new reality once she reached the town, eager to discover the truths that couldn't be found within the pages of a book. She navigated the dense forest, consulting her map and expecting to hit the main road soon. Suddenly, a rustling in the nearby bushes caught her attention, prompting her to stop and peer into the undergrowth. Emerging from the foliage was a large, spherical creature. It was a spider, its dark, fuzzy body dotted with lighter spots, and 4 large, dark eyes staring up from the forest floor. Startled by the sudden appearance, she gripped her staff tightly, questioning aloud if the creature before her was indeed a spider. Cautiously leaning in, she asked the creature if it needed something from her. In response, the spider let out a soft, high-pitched chirp. Realizing the language barrier, she muttered to herself, her grip on her staff tightening. She quickly mentally reviewed the weapon techniques she had studied, unsure if she would need to defend herself against the wild beast. Before she could raise her guard, the spider abruptly lowered its front half to the ground, pressing its body down in a submissive, bowing posture. The creature's strange behavior triggered a memory from her recent studies. She recalled reading that monsters adopted this exact posture when they wished to be tamed, leading her to wonder if this wild spider was actually offering its loyalty. Her defensive stance softened into empathy. Gazing down at the solitary creature, she gently asked if it, too, was all alone in the vast forest. Taking the spider's silence as confirmation, a warm smile spread across her face. She adjusted her collar, admitting that the creature wasn't nearly as frightening as she had initially feared. With her decision made, she turned back toward the path and warmly invited the spider to join her. The little monster immediately perked up, happily bouncing along behind her as they continued their journey together. She jumped slightly as the little spider suddenly called out to her, eagerly demanding that she give it a name. Pondering for a moment, she raised a finger with a bright smile and suggested the name Tarado. The newly named Tarado bounced with joy, thanking its master. Inwardly, she mused that she had simply reused the name of a giant spider she had once tamed in a video game. Welcoming her new companion, she then tilted her head, curious as to why the creature had sought her out to be tamed in the first place. Tarado cheerfully replied that it felt they would make a perfect match. She pondered this, wondering if the spider's intuition had something to do with her own skills in magic weaving. Before she could dwell on it, the spider scurried ahead, calling out for its master to follow. Blinking in mild confusion, she trailed after her energetic new familiar through the dense foliage. They emerged into a clearing dominated by a massive, glowing cocoon suspended high in the canopy. Awestruck, she asked if this was Tarado's home. The spider confirmed, asking her to wait while it gathered its things for their journey. Moving with surprising agility, Tarado shot a line of silk upward, expertly pulling down a bundled package from the branches above. Watching the process, she couldn't help but marvel aloud at how shiny and beautiful the spider's thread was, earning a happy chirp of thanks from Tarado. She watched as her new companion hoisted a surprisingly large bundle onto its back, declaring itself ready. Curious, she asked what was inside, to which the spider simply replied that it was lunch. With their preparations complete, she cheerfully announced their departure, and the two set off into the forest together. As they walked beneath the dense canopy, she asked if the spider had lived in this forest its entire life. Her companion explained that while it was born elsewhere, it had called these woods home for as long as it could remember. The spider admitted that this was its first time ever leaving the area, expressing a nervous excitement. She smiled warmly, sharing its enthusiasm for the journey ahead. Her expression softened as she asked if her companion had ever felt lonely out here. She confessed her own long-held desire to simply walk outside on her own 2 feet, a dream she was finally realizing. Turning to the spider with a bright smile, she declared that she wasn't lonely anymore, not with a friend by her side. Suddenly, the trees parted to reveal a sprawling, walled city in the distance, which she excitedly recognized as Naced. Upon reaching the city gates, their progress was abruptly halted by a stern-faced guard, who demanded to know where the young lady had come from. She smoothly delivered a prepared backstory, explaining that she had lived in the forest with her master until his recent passing, prompting her journey down to the village. The guard listened, raising an eyebrow at the mention of a master. His gaze then shifted to the massive creature beside her. She quickly assured him that it was a harmless large silk spider she had tamed along the way. The guard noted its calm demeanor, but pointedly questioned the nature of the massive cocoon it was carrying. She sheepishly admitted that she hadn't actually seen inside it herself, though she was told it was just lunch. Unconvinced, the guard asked if she could order her familiar to reveal the bundle's contents. She watched as the massive silk bundle was finally opened, revealing the lifeless body of a venom lizard. The town guards recoiled in absolute shock, their voices rising in disbelief as they questioned if her spider had truly defeated such a beast. Still reeling from the discovery, the guards explained that the creature was a notorious threat to the citizens, known for spreading deadly poison everywhere. Hearing their panicked tone, she tilted her head, genuinely surprised that the lizard was considered so dangerous. Their fear quickly turned to awe as they stared at her eight-legged companion. They marveled at the sheer power required to capture such a formidable monster in pristine condition, while the large spider simply stood its ground, an imposing presence before the city gates. The commotion was suddenly interrupted by the arrival of a sharply dressed man. With a polite smile, he apologized for keeping the young lady waiting and introduced himself as Maze, the guild master of the Tamers Guild. Flustered by the sudden appearance of someone so seemingly important, she stammered a greeting. Seeing her panic, Maze quickly waved his hands to reassure her, explaining with a self-deprecating chuckle that there was no need to worry, as he was actually the only staff member of the guild in this particular town. Turning his attention to the massive creature beside her, the guild master correctly identified it as a large silk spider. She nodded in confirmation, gently introducing her tame companion as Tarado. Having met the monster, Maze then politely inquired about the young lady's own name. Caught slightly off guard by the direct question, she hesitated, her words trailing off as she considered her response. In the brief silence, her mind raced. She realized that her original name, Yuri, might sound entirely too foreign and strange in this new world, prompting her to quickly come up with an alternative. Making her decision, she placed a hand over her heart and offered a bright, confident smile, introducing herself simply as Lily. Maze warmly returned the greeting, pleased to make her acquaintance. With introductions out of the way, the guild master observed Tarado's docile nature and the visible contract mark. He then informed Lily of the city's regulations, explaining that in order to walk freely through the streets with a tame monster, she would first need to officially register it with the Tamers Guild. She readily agreed to the guild master's proposal. The elegant man, however, remained visibly impressed by her companion. He noted his surprise that a mere large silk spider could capture something as dangerous as a venom lizard, deducing that the creature must possess incredibly strong threads and exceptional hunting skills. Hearing the praise, she stood tall, her staff resting firmly in her hand. With a proud smile, she declared that her spider was a truly reliable partner. The large spider tilted its head, seemingly confused by the sudden attention. Meanwhile, a quiet realization dawned on the young girl. Her companion was far more amazing than she had initially understood. The guild master then turned his attention directly to the multi-eyed beast. With a warm smile, he formally thanked the creature for capturing the dangerous lizard, assuring it that the citizens were now safe because of its actions. Overjoyed by the recognition, she cheered for her partner's success. With the immediate threat handled, the guild master gestured for them to follow, leading the way toward the Tamers Guild to finalize the registration. She eagerly agreed, falling in a step behind him. As they walked, her excitement bubbled over. The very concept of a Tamers Guild felt like a classic trope from the fantasy stories of her past life, and the promise of free, fun adventures filled her with absolute glee. Strolling alongside her loyal monster, she silently vowed to do her absolute best in this new world, starting with their upcoming guild registration. And so, beneath the towering spires of the city, her new life as a magical seamstress officially began. A gleaming new accessory now adorned one of Tarado's thick, dark legs, a specialized bracelet serving as undeniable proof of his status as a bound familiar. With the creature officially recognized, the guild master assured Lily that the townspeople would no longer fear her companion. Bowing deeply in gratitude, she thanked him as he offered to escort her to the Tamer Guild to finalize the paperwork. Stepping out into the bustling streets, the young elf marveled at the sheer volume of people going about their day. As they walked, her guide pointed out another grand building, suggesting she also register with the Adventurers Guild, noting that Tarado's strength would be perfect for earning coin through subjugation quests. She considered the proposal thoughtfully before turning to her spherical companion to ask his opinion. The spider practically vibrated with enthusiasm, eager for the chance to defeat hordes of enemies. A determined smile spread across her face at his eager response. The prospect of becoming an adventurer sparked a new fire within her, and she firmly agreed to register later. Internally, she swelled with a sense of nostalgic pride. In her past life, she had only ever been a simple tailor, making the idea of living as a true adventurer a long-held, quiet dream finally coming to fruition. Shortly after, delicate hands carefully examined a freshly printed registration document, its strange text confirming her new status. Behind the polished wooden counter of the Tamer Guild, an older clerk handed her a small, metallic band, officially concluding her registration and instructing her to wear it. She tilted her head, curious about the object's purpose. The clerk explained that the item was a tamer's bracelet, magically paired with the one now worn by her familiar, serving as her official credentials. Nodding in understanding, She thanked him profusely as he directed her toward the newly opened counter at the Adventurers Guild next door. At the adjacent counter, a cheerful young receptionist finalized her second enrollment of the day. She then launched into a detailed explanation of the Adventurers Guild's strict regulations, an international organization independent of noble influence, operating on a strict 8-tier ranking system from white up to platinum, where advancement required completing specific quests within one's own skill level. She listened intently as the receptionist detailed the various types of guild requests, ranging from urgent emergencies to personal designations and high-difficulty missions. The young tamer realized that her recent subjugation of the venom lizard had actually fallen under the emergency category. Concluding the thorough explanation, the receptionist offered a warm smile and invited her to ask any further questions. Bowing slightly, the newly registered adventurer expressed her gratitude for the assistance. Their conversation was interrupted when Maze, the elegant guild master, called out across the hall. He caught the attention of Naman, a young male staff member, asking for a moment of his time as the tamer and her familiar approached from behind. Gesturing gracefully toward the pair, the guild master formally introduced the new member and her large, silken spider familiar to the attentive clerk. Following a quick command from her, the spider rapidly unraveled its massive silken cocoon right onto the appraisal counter. The heavy thud of the enormous venom lizard carcass left the guild staff staring in wide-eyed shock at the impressive catch. Recovering from his surprise, the clerk asked how she wanted to handle the extracted materials, specifically the fur, meat, and magic stones. He noted with astonishment that she had brought in far more than just the single lizard. As established by the world's natural laws, magic stones functioned as a second heart for all monsters. For adventurers, selling the materials from monsters whose meat was inedible provided a primary source of income. She initially decided to sell the stones, reasoning she had no personal use for them. However, before she could finalize the transaction, her spider companion gently tugged at her sleeve, expressing a strong desire to consume the magical cores himself. The familiar eagerly explained that eating the stones caused power to surge through him, allowing him to produce a wider variety of silken threads. Intrigued by the prospect of new abilities, she quickly changed her mind and asked the clerk if she could keep the stones, to which he readily agreed. Handing over a dismantling ticket, the clerk advised her to return around noon the following day, given the sheer volume of materials to process. She accepted the slip with a bright smile, thanking him profusely for his help. She listened attentively as the clerk finalized her paperwork, his tone helpful as he recommended a familiar friendly inn called the Great Eagle's Nest. Grateful for the tip, she thanked him and headed out. Stepping out into the bright town, a relieved smile spread across her face. She was thankful the Adventurers Guild hadn't been crowded, making her registration surprisingly smooth. Glancing down at her wrist, she admired her new bracelet, pleased that it matched the one worn by her spider companion. Her thoughts then turned to finding the specific the guildmaster had mentioned. Their search led them to a grand, multi-story timber-framed building. Pushing open the heavy wooden doors, they were immediately welcomed by a cheerful young woman behind the counter. Approaching the desk, the young tamer requested accommodations for both herself and her large companion. The innkeeper's eyes lit up with excitement, thrilled to host a tamer after such a long time, and eagerly confirmed their availability. The enthusiastic host quickly outlined the rates, offering a room with dinner for 800 rubies, or slightly less without. She then inquired about the spider's dietary needs, explaining that meals for familiars were handled separately. Turning to her companion, she confirmed his preference for meat before instructing the innkeeper to prepare a standard grilled portion for him. Stepping further inside, the pair entered a spacious, bustling dining hall filled with patrons enjoying their meals. The lively atmosphere left the young adventurer wide-eyed with wonder. The rich, savory aroma of cooked food washed over her, bringing a bright smile to her face as she took in the vibrant energy of the tavern. Settling at a wooden table, they were soon attended to by the cheerful host, who arrived carrying a massive, steaming plate of food, apologizing for the brief wait. She stared in awe at the massive, sizzling steak placed before them, her eyes sparkling with anticipation as she marveled at how delicious it looked. Slicing into the tender cut, she took her first bite and immediately melted into pure bliss, exclaiming just how incredibly yummy it was. As they both chewed happily, she admitted she rarely had the chance to eat such thick, hearty meat. Savoring the rich flavor, she briefly wondered aloud what kind of animal it came from. A sudden realization dawned on her as she recalled earlier conversations about the local cuisine. The thought that it might actually be monster meat crossed her mind, but she quickly brushed the concern aside with a cheerful smile, deciding that as long as it tasted good, it didn't matter. After dinner, she opened the door to their rented room and was immediately impressed by its spotless condition. Her amazement only grew as she discovered a working shower and a flushing toilet, leaving her utterly baffled by the unexpectedly high level of civilization in this new world. Exhausted but thrilled, she threw herself onto the plush mattress, reveling in the luxurious softness of a real bed. Settling into the pillows, she let out a contented sigh, admitting just how drained she was after the day's long events. Yet, despite the fatigue, a gentle smile graced her lips as she reflected on how much fun it had all been. deciding it was finally time to rest. She wished her spider companion a good night. Soon, both of them drifted off to sleep as the full moon cast a quiet glow over the inn. The next morning, bathed in bright sunlight, they strolled through the bustling town square. She suggested they take a leisurely walk to explore the area before heading back to the Adventurers Guild at noon, a plan her companion eagerly agreed to. As they navigated the streets, her thoughts briefly drifted back to their breakfast, still mildly surprised that the morning soup hadn't been miso. Shaking off the culinary musings, she studied the town's layout, noting the directions to the residential and commercial districts, and ultimately decided the commercial area would be the best place for their morning stroll. She strolled down the bustling, paved street of the commercial district, her large spider companion scuttling faithfully by her side. As they passed, the local townsfolk paused, casting curious and wary glances their way. Feeling the weight of their stares, a drop of sweat formed on her brow. She realized that walking around with a monster made her stand out significantly, deducing that tamers must be a rare sight in this town. Seeking a brief respite from the attention, she paused before a quaint, half-timbered building. Glancing at the sign hanging by the wooden door, she wondered aloud if she had stumbled upon a clothing store. Pushing the door open to the cheerful chime of a bell, she stepped inside with her companion. A young woman behind the counter immediately greeted them with a warm, welcoming smile. The cheerful clerk asked if she was a merchant, inviting her to take her time and inquiring what she was looking for. Flustered, the young tamer nervously explained that she was simply curious about the types of garments sold in the town. Turning her attention to the neatly folded garments on display, her eyes widened slightly in surprise. She noted that a large portion of the inventory consisted of second-hand clothing. The clerk elaborated on the local economy, explaining that fresh fabric was prohibitively expensive. She detailed how the local flora used for textiles, like hemp and cotton, were constantly destroyed by roaming monsters, while the beasts that produced usable fur were far too dangerous to hunt reliably. Because of these harsh realities, the clerk continued, almost everyone in town relied on second-hand garments. With a wistful smile, she confessed her own desire to one day try on the trendy, fashionable clothes imported from the big city. The explanation clicked into place for the young traveler. Recalling her walk through the streets, she realized that the townsfolk she had passed earlier were indeed wearing noticeably worn and faded attire. Weighing her options against the harsh environment, she made a firm decision. Even if she couldn't be fashionable, she resolved to find clothes that were, above all else, durable and practical for her journey. She reflected on her past, remembering how much she enjoyed crafting items for customers in her old life. While she possessed skills like magic weaving and sewing, she realized they would be difficult to put to use without a steady supply of materials. Pushing those thoughts aside, the young elf bowed politely to the shopkeeper, expressing her gratitude for the valuable information before taking her leave. The clerk warmly invited her to return anytime. Her next stop was the imposing stone building of the Adventurers Guild. Stepping inside, she approached the counter, announcing herself as the one who had submitted a dismantling request the previous day. The receptionist greeted her with a nod and hoisted a heavy, clinking sack onto the wooden counter. She explained that the bag contained the proceeds from selling the monster's materials and its magic stones. Detailing the transaction, the guild worker noted that after deducting the fees for dismantling and meat disposal, the total payout came to a substantial 23,000 rubies. Lily beamed, thanking her profusely. Thrilled by the unexpected windfall, she cheered quietly to herself. Cradling her spider companion, she promised to give him his share of the magic stones as soon as they returned to the comfort of their inn. Later, safely back in their room, a pile of dark, jagged magic stones was spread across a cloth. Given the variety to choose from, the little spider immediately requested the stone that had belonged to the goblin. She picked up the requested gem, recalling with a slight chuckle how the goblin had been causing trouble near their old nest before she took it down. With a warm smile, she offered the dark stone to her companion. Without hesitation, the spider eagerly clamped his mandibles down onto the hard, crystalline surface, ready to enjoy his hard-earned meal. His enthusiasm quickly waned as he chewed, complaining that the goblin stone was gritty and lacked flavor. Despite his grumbling, he stubbornly refused to let it go to waste, prompting a bemused reaction from his master. He finished his meal with a satisfied chirp, his large eyes crinkling happily as he thanked her for the treat. Turning her attention to their next task, Lily pulled out a smooth wooden spool she had brought from the shed, offering it to her companion. The little spider immediately set to work, rapidly spinning a fine, shimmering thread from his abdomen and expertly winding it around the wooden core. She gasped in awe at the beautiful, silken strands. He proudly explained that it was magic spider thread, a rare material he had heard could be traded for a remarkably high price. Curious, she asked where he had learned such a rumor. He recalled a group of armed people who had stumbled upon his nest. He had overheard them discussing its value right before he chased them away. Realizing the thread's immense value, she eagerly asked if she could keep it. He happily agreed, insisting he made it just for her, prompting her to pull him into a tight, affectionate hug. Holding the gleaming spool, she remembered how expensive new clothes were at the local shops. The smooth, high-quality thread in her hands felt like the perfect solution to her wardrobe problems. Her mind raced with possibilities. If she could process the raw material to behave like silk, she could craft her own garments and perhaps even sell the excess, drawing on the skills from her past life. Deciding to put her theory to the test, she extended her hands over the spool and confidently activated her magic weaving skill. A bright flash of light enveloped the wooden cylinder as the magical energy took hold, instantly transforming the raw thread. As the light faded, she stared blankly at the small, unimpressive result in her hands, letting out a confused murmur. The magical transformation hadn't yielded the instant success she had hoped for. Looking out over the moonlit rooftops, she sighed, accepting that mastering this new skill wouldn't be easy right from the start. Beside her, Tarato enthusiastically cheered her on, promising to spin as much thread as she needed. With her companion's unwavering support, she resolved to take things slowly and keep working hard. Under the light of a full moon, the quiet night was broken by a sudden, energetic declaration to activate magic weaving. Inside, the grueling effort yielded 5 pristine rolls of fabric, leaving the young elf and her spider companion panting heavily from exhaustion. She turned to her small, round friend, offering a warm smile of gratitude for his hard work, to which he happily squeaked his own sense of accomplishment. Holding up one of the freshly woven rolls, she admired the beautiful craftsmanship, confident that their combined efforts had produced something truly special. With the fabric finished, she began to strategize her next moves. She decided to sell the cloth as is to secure her immediate living expenses, while making a mental note to visit the Adventurers Guild the following day to inquire about purchasing the magic stones her companion needed for food. The next day, her plans hit an unexpected roadblock when she was met with the shocking revelation that magic stones were not available for public purchase. The guild receptionist explained the strict policy, detailing a past incident where an individual had attempted to absorb a magic stone to enhance their own power, resulting in a catastrophic and explosive loss of control. She elaborated that the guild now only buys back stones to sell exclusively to licensed vendors for crafting magic tools. Without a proper license, the only way to acquire the stones was to hunt monsters directly. Seeking an alternative route, the young weaver soon found herself standing before the grand facade of the Merchant Guild, greeted by a cheerful new clerk. Approaching the counter with her spider companion resting on her head, she nervously requested to register with the guild so she could finally sell her handmade goods. She hesitated for a moment at the counter before the receptionist gently prompted her, asking exactly what goods she intended to sell. Reaching into her large bag, the young weaver pulled out a pristine roll of fabric, explaining that it was spider silk. The receptionist's eyes widened in sheer disbelief, her voice catching in her throat as she repeated the words spider silk. Gasping, the clerk abruptly asked her to wait just a moment before sprinting away and slamming a door shut behind her. Before the girl could fully process the sudden departure, the receptionist reappeared, urgently ushering her toward a specially prepared negotiation room, leaving her utterly bewildered. Stepping through the heavy wooden door with her spider companion trailing close behind, she cautiously excused herself as she entered the private office. Waiting inside was an older, distinguished woman in a sharp suit and round glasses, who warmly introduced herself as Warren, the guild master of the Merchant Guild. After apologizing for the sudden summons and expressing her anticipation for their partnership, the guild master politely requested to examine the spider silk firsthand. The young weaver readily agreed. The pristine, shimmering white fabric slid smoothly across the table, catching the light as it unrolled. Adjusting her glasses, Warren marveled at the exceptional quality, noting that it must have come from a large silk spider and praising the fine weaving. She declared that the Merchant Guild would be honored to purchase it. She considered the pristine silk before her, proposing a staggering 50,000 rubies per spool. The sheer volume of the offer hit the young weaver like a physical blow. Her eyes widened as she mentally calculated that a night at the inn cost a mere fraction of that sum. Misinterpreting her stunned silence as dissatisfaction, the older woman hastily apologized, suggesting she could perhaps secure a higher price by selling it directly to the guild. Panic flared in the girl's chest, and she frantically waved her hands, assuring the guild master that the price was more than acceptable, eagerly adding that she had 4 additional spools to offer. Relieved by the enthusiastic acceptance, she adjusted her glasses with a satisfied smile, declaring that the guild would purchase the entire stock. The young girl bowed deeply, her voice trembling with profound gratitude. Moving swiftly to the logistics of the transaction, the guildmaster outlined the payment options, offering either immediate cash or a direct transfer to a merchant account. The young weaver hesitated, a sheepish expression crossing her face as she admitted she had yet to officially register with the Merchant Guild and lacked an account. Acknowledging the oversight, the older woman nodded, noting that the paperwork would need to be finalized first. She elaborated on the guild structure, explaining that establishing an account was crucial for regular trading and advancing through the merchant ranks, which would eventually eliminate the reliance on cash-only transactions. With a sudden burst of urgency, she instructed the girl to wait and abruptly marched out of the room, the heavy door slamming shut behind her. The young weaver blinked in surprise at the sudden departure, left alone in the quiet office. Her bewilderment was shattered as the heavy door burst open with a resounding crash. The guild master reappeared, slightly breathless but triumphant, brandishing a freshly stamped registration document. She proudly announced the immediate completion of the paperwork and the finalization of their transaction, seamlessly pivoting to ask if her new client had any other goods to offer. Still recovering from the whirlwind process, she confessed that her current production was limited solely to spider silk, though she expressed a keen interest in purchasing raw cotton or linen to expand her craft. The older woman's expression grew thoughtful as she stroked her chin, warning that the town was currently suffering from a severe fabric shortage, making any new textiles prohibitively expensive. The warning triggered a memory, bringing to mind a recent conversation with a local shopkeeper who had lamented the exact same scarcity of raw materials. As she pondered this regional dilemma, a specific, unfamiliar name echoed in her thoughts: the trade city of Vodmoy. Her unspoken curiosity was quickly addressed as the guildmaster described the distant metropolis. She painted a picture of a sprawling, vibrant hub of commerce located a month's journey away via magical transport, a place where an endless variety of goods converged. It was the perfect destination, she advised, to procure cheap raw materials while simultaneously selling high-quality spider silk at a premium. A spark of pure excitement ignited in the young weaver's eyes at the prospect of such a journey. Seizing the moment, the guildmaster offered to leverage her position to secure a reservation on the next magical transport, departing in 10 days. Overwhelmed by the generous offer, the girl eagerly accepted, her mind already racing with dreams of crafting beautiful garments, establishing her own brand, and eventually opening a storefront. The older woman smiled warmly, formally expressing her anticipation for a long and prosperous business partnership. With her immediate future secured, she dedicated the ensuing 10 days before departure to fulfilling simple, steady requests at the local Adventurers Guild. During this productive interim, she managed to harvest 4 additional rolls of the precious silk while diligently caring for her arachnid companion. Though the magic stones yielded by the low-tier monsters she hunted were of poor quality, she found they still served as an adequate, if unrefined, food source for her growing familiar. She stood at the front desk of the Eagle's Nest Inn, her bags packed for the journey ahead. She warmly thanked the young innkeeper for her hospitality over the past days, though the host insisted the gratitude was entirely hers. With a bright smile, the innkeeper waved her off, wishing her a safe trip. Stepping out into the bustling street, the young tailor and her spider companion made their way through the town, ready for their next chapter. Arriving at the station, she glanced around in confusion, searching for the long-distance transport until she finally spotted the large, train-like vehicle waiting on the tracks. A uniformed conductor greeted her warmly, explaining that the bus traveled via post towns every day. He assured her that her ticket included complimentary stays at designated inns along the route, and that her familiar was more than welcome to join her. Relieved by the excellent service, she gladly accepted the offer, and the conductor wished her a pleasant journey as she boarded. Before she could settle into her seat, her spider companion called out, asking her to wait a moment. Moving quickly, the familiar spun a thick, intricate web across the wooden bench, proudly presenting a custom-made, plush silk cushion for her to try. She sank into the incredibly soft seat, beaming with gratitude as she thanked him. Moments later, the conductor announced their departure, and the carriage jolted forward, leaving the familiar town behind. Several days into their journey, the transport arrived at a quiet post town under the cover of night, stopping at a large, multi-story inn to rest. In the quiet of their inn room, Lily sits at a table, meticulously working on a piece of paper with Tarado resting nearby. An inquisitive voice from across the room breaks the silence, noting that she has been focused on this same task every night and asking what the paper is. Startled for a moment, the young tamer looks up before glancing back down at her work. She holds up the large sheet, revealing a drawn outline, and explains that it is a sewing pattern used to cut fabric for making clothes. Beside her, the spider monster tilts his body, repeating the unfamiliar word in confusion. Lifting the draft up to the light, she clarifies that since it is drawn on regular paper, it is only a preliminary sketch. Her unseen companion questions this, wondering why ordinary paper isn't sufficient for the final product. The young tailor elaborates on the mechanics of magic sewing, detailing how drawing a pattern on specialized paper allows magic to automatically complete the garment. However, she sighs, noting that she was unable to procure the necessary magical paperback in Neast. Peeking over the edge of the table, Tarado watches intently as his master confirms that the pattern will indeed become a piece of clothing eventually. She then presents a sketch of a simple, short-sleeved top, describing it as a t-shirt that one simply pulls over their head. Though she admits she doesn't fully understand the appeal of such an undershirt, she considers it good practice for production, even if she doubts it will sell well in this new world. The spherical spider chimes in, asking if these simple shirts will be crafted from his own silk. She gently rejects the idea, reasoning that a softer, more affordable fabric would be better suited for a basic shirt than his highly valuable material. Resting her hand against her cheek, she ponders what kind of garment would be worthy of the expensive spider silk. She briefly considers a dress, but quickly dismisses it due to the complex parts and heavy workload, deciding instead to start with something simpler like a blouse. Her eyes widen slightly as a wave of nostalgia washes over her, recalling the countless dresses she used to design and create during her past life in Midgard. Across the table, her blonde traveling companion watches the process with fascination, remarking that she has never seen a clothing designer make patterns from scratch before. As the tamer explains that she is simply following instructions from an official book, the companion playfully points out her established reputation for crafting custom equipment, a compliment she accepts with a humble smile, acknowledging the girl's support. She laughed with confident ease, hands resting on her hips. When her blonde companion marveled at her ability to craft original equipment without an instruction manual, the young elf simply credited her extensive experience. Demonstrating her technique, she laid the raw materials over the magic paper. With a sudden, soft pop, the components seamlessly merged, transforming instantly into a fully formed dress, leaving her companion in awe. The blonde girl thoughtfully suggested that if she had any preferred status adjustments in mind, it would be best to include them now. The elf hummed, considering the advice as she looked over her workspace. A fleeting shadow of melancholy crossed her features. Her thoughts drifted to the friends she had lost touch with when the game ended, silently hoping they were all doing well wherever they were. The memories of her past life surfaced, a life confined by illness, where she had isolated herself to avoid being a burden to anyone outside the virtual world. Sensing her sudden quietness, the little spider monster tilted its head, softly calling her name. The dark cloud lifted as she smiled warmly, gently patting her familiar's head. She voiced her profound gratitude for her new reality, cherishing her healthy body and the loyal travel companion by her side. Catching her renewed enthusiasm, the spider cheered for a dress. She readily agreed, proposing they start by sketching a simple pattern for a one-piece garment. Slapping her hands onto the table with sudden vigor, she grabbed a pen and began scratching outlines with practiced speed, muttering instructions to herself as she shaped the design. The pen strokes quickly formed the distinct outlines of a bodice and skirt on the paper. With a final flourish, she declared the drafting phase complete. She explained the final steps of cutting and assembling the pieces, proudly holding up the completed paper pattern. The little spider stared at the flat design, tilting its head in confusion, struggling to visualize the final garment from just a sketch. She marveled as the paper seamlessly transformed into a physical garment, though she admitted she might have gone slightly overboard with the intricate decorations. Suddenly, an idea struck her, and she excitedly recalled an all-purpose dye she had received from a goddess. Producing the small bottle with a triumphant flourish, she eagerly suggested they use it to add color to her new creation. As she envisioned the final design, she decided a bright, light blue base would be perfect for the upcoming season, perfectly complemented by crisp white frills. Holding up the completed, beautifully dyed dress, she proudly asked Tarado for his opinion. The spider monster was amazed by the beauty of human clothing, though he worried that such intricate work would make it expensive. With a smug smile, she assured him that having the right tools and techniques made all the difference. She further explained that stunning garments could be crafted even from inexpensive materials. Reassured, Tarado expressed his anticipation for her future works, prompting her to confidently declare that he could leave it all to her. Following her confident declaration, Tarado shifted his thoughts to their upcoming journey, wondering aloud about the town of Vodmoy, and hoping she would find plenty of fabric to ensure her creations sold exceptionally well. Listening to his hopes, she gazed thoughtfully out the window into the night, offering a soft, determined agreement. Her mind filled with images of bustling streets and diverse townsfolk, wondering what kind of people she would soon meet in Vodmoy. Brimming with excitement, she resolved to draw countless new patterns to ensure everyone would love her work. As night settled over the inn, she prepared to head to the new town, her heart full of determination to do her absolute best. Arriving at the bustling city of Wardmoy, Lily threw her arms wide in sheer excitement, her voice ringing out in celebration of their journey's end. Beside her, Tarado perched happily on the cobblestones, taking in the grand architecture of their new destination. Wasting no time, she decided their first stop would be the Merchant Guild. As they strolled through the streets, she hoped her spider silk would fetch a high price, and that she might find some easy-to-process fabric for her own projects. Stepping inside the guild hall, she was immediately taken aback by the dense crowd. She marveled at how packed the building was, even this early in the morning. Her attention snapped forward as a cheerful receptionist called out for the next client in line. Raising her hand, the young elf eagerly stepped up to the counter. She introduced herself as Lily from Neast, explaining that she had come to sell spider silk and presented a letter of introduction from Warren. Recognizing the guildmaster's name instantly, the receptionist's demeanor shifted to utmost professionalism as she offered to escort her directly to a private negotiation room. Following the clerk through the bustling hall, she was led to a quiet corridor where a heavy door was pushed open for her. She realized with a hint of awe that Warren's influence was indeed granting her VIP treatment. Inside the opulent office, a sharply dressed man greeted her with a polite bow. He introduced himself as Vinch, the sub-guildmaster, welcoming the young elf to their establishment. Gesturing gracefully toward a plush sofa, he invited her to take a seat, his eyes lingering on Tarado. He apologized for his curiosity, noting that it was incredibly rare to see a tamed silk spider accompanying an adventurer. He then leaned forward, shifting the conversation to business as he inquired about the quantity of spider silk she had brought. She quickly confirmed that she had 4 rolls ready for trade. She watched as he nodded thoughtfully, agreeing to purchase the current stock immediately before presenting a sudden, urgent request. He needed 10 more rolls as soon as possible. Surprised by the large order, she pressed him for a specific time frame, asking if he needed them within the next 20 days. She hesitated, her brow furrowing as she calculated the logistics. Gathering the necessary magic stones while producing a roll of silk every 2 days seemed nearly impossible. Hoping for some leniency, she requested an extension to 30 days, admitting she couldn't guarantee the original 20-day deadline. To her relief, the voice across the table readily agreed, assuring her that 30 days would be perfectly sufficient. Surprised by the generous terms, she sat across from sub-guildmaster Vinch, noting that the contract heavily favored her. Vinch calmly sweetened the deal further, offering a staggering 80,000 pills per roll and waiving any penalties even if she failed to meet the extended 30-day deadline. He maintained a polite but firm smile as he explained the reasoning behind such an unusual arrangement. The silk was a highly valuable commodity, and the client was a figure of immense importance. He hinted that the complicated circumstances of a certain noble were involved, making it clear that any further questions would be pointless. With the terms settled, pen met paper, formalizing the lucrative agreement. Vinch expressed his gratitude, officially concluding their business, while she offered a respectful bow in return. Leaving the guild behind, she walked through the city streets with Tarado perched comfortably on her shoulder. The spider chimed in, wondering if she still intended to purchase fabric. She shook her head, explaining that her immediate priority was hunting for magic stones. Even if she bought the cloth now, she wouldn't have the spare time to sew anything new. Pumping her fist with renewed determination, she declared that it was time to focus all their efforts on monster extermination. To prepare for the hunt, she spent time scouring the archives in the Adventurers Guild reference room, researching the local fauna around Wardmoy. After careful consideration, she selected her target, a creature known as an ogre. Out in the field, she and Tarado confronted the hulking, horned beast. Assessing the ogre, she noted it was the perfect level for them to handle. She confirmed Tarado's readiness, knowing that since only the monster's horns and fangs were valuable materials, they wouldn't need to haul the entire heavy carcass back, making it a highly efficient target. Springing into action, the spider unleashed a torrent of thick, white silk, rapidly wrapping the massive ogre until it was completely immobilized, leaving the beast to thrash helplessly against its bindings. With the creature subdued, she stepped forward and delivered the finishing blow with her weapon in a burst of magic. Though the battle was won, she acknowledged that the ogre's wildly swinging arms had still posed a significant threat before it was fully bound. She calculated her progress, noting that 10 ogre magic stones yielded 1 roll of spider silk, whereas weaker monsters would require double the effort. She silently praised the efficiency of hunting ogres. Looking out the window at the falling rain, she decided to call off the day's hunt. Instead, she suggested to Tarado that they head to the Adventurers Guild to sell the substantial pile of ogre materials they had already amassed. Arriving at the grand building of the Adventurers Guild, they presented their haul. The receptionist stared in disbelief at the sheer quantity, stammering as she double-checked that the girl standing before her was merely a white-rank adventurer. Sensing the clerk's distress, the young adventurer tilted her head in confusion, asking if there was a problem. The receptionist, still reeling, asked exactly how many ogres she had managed to take down. With complete innocence, she proudly declared the total to be 87. The receptionist's jaw dropped as she explained that a typical white-rank adventurer couldn't even defeat a single ogre. The clerk pressed further, demanding to know how she could possibly hunt so many alone. She emphasized that most beginners struggled against mere goblins and would never dare face such threats without a full party. Unfazed, she explained her simple strategy. Her spider companion would completely immobilize the targets, leaving them helpless before she delivered the final strike. Hearing this, the receptionist let out a long sigh of relief, satisfied as long as the young girl wasn't acting recklessly. The adventurer cheerfully confirmed she hadn't suffered a single scratch. Processing the extraordinary achievement, the clerk made an executive decision. She announced an immediate promotion to black rank, noting that while the girl's skills warranted a green rank, that would require a formal examination. Curious, she asked about the exam's requirements. Upon learning it involved combat against an instructor and an overnight camping test, she realized with a sweat drop that she wouldn't be able to take it anytime soon. She presented her delivery to the sub-guildmaster, who smiled warmly as he accepted the 10 rolls of spider silk. He expressed his genuine surprise that she and Tarado had managed to gather such a large quantity in just 20 days. With the transaction complete, she inquired about applying for a market stall and asked for recommendations on where to buy fabric. She explained her intention to run the stall for a short period, prompting him to thoughtfully consider her request, noting that finding a good location on short notice might be challenging. Following his advice, she visited a local shop and was immediately overwhelmed by the vast selection. She marveled at the high-quality fabrics, the specialized paper for magic sewing, and the adorable buttons, eagerly discussing her choices with the helpful clerk. Leaving the store, she beamed with satisfaction, her arms full of newly purchased rolls of cloth and supplies. As they strolled back through the town streets, she chatted happily with Tarado, grateful for the shop recommendation and eager to return to their inn to begin crafting. Once settled in their room, she laid out her materials and explained her plan to Tarado. She decided to start by making an apron, reasoning that its simpler design with fewer parts would be a safer test of her magic sewing skills before attempting to work with the precious spider silk. She held up a thick, sturdy piece of denim, noting that its durability and resistance to stains made it the perfect material for an apron, even if it was a bit expensive. With her plan set, her eyes sparkled with determination. She raised her hands over the materials and confidently invoked her magic sewing skill. In a sudden burst of magical light, the raw fabric and thread instantly assembled themselves, dropping a perfectly crafted denim apron onto the table. She held up the newly crafted denim apron with a bright smile, relieved that her first attempt at magic sewing hadn't ended in failure. Tarado watched her success with equal enthusiasm. Admiring her handiwork, she realized she could easily mass-produce them. But before making more, she decided it was time to practice something she hadn't tried yet: enchanting. The little spider tilted its head in confusion at the unfamiliar word. She pulled out a thick book, explaining that the goddess's manual detailed how to imbue tools with various magical effects. She recalled the gear she had brought from her old cabin. Those items were already imbued with incredibly powerful enchantments, like self-repair, weight reduction, and increased piercing power. Flipping through the pages, she searched for practical effects suited for an apron. She settled on 2 useful spells: Easy Wash and Water Repellent. With her target spells chosen, she stood up and took a deep breath, extending her hands toward the garment. Beside her, Tarado offered a cheerful squeak of encouragement. She called out the enchantment, channeling her magic into the fabric. Glowing, intricate circuits materialized across the denim, pulsing with light before suddenly vanishing with a soft pop. Her shoulders slumped as the magic dissipated completely. Realizing the spell had failed, she pondered if she needed to manually connect the magical circuits, resigning herself to a long session of trial and error. Sometime later, she sat exhausted beside a massive pile of discarded aprons. Tarado gently patted her head, offering comfort after she had managed only a handful of successful enchantments out of dozens of attempts. Despite the low success rate, she wondered if the enchanted denim would fetch a good price. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock as the innkeeper opened the door, letting her know that the evening dinner rush was finally winding down. She peeked into the room, her sudden arrival startling the young elf. Recovering quickly, the girl explained that she had lost track of time while busy crafting aprons. The older woman tilted her head, confused as to why an adventurer would be sewing. The elf cheerfully clarified her new ambition to also work as a magical tailor. A spark of inspiration lit up the young tailor's eyes. Thrusting one of her newly finished garments forward, she eagerly asked the woman to test its comfort and practicality. Taking the neatly folded fabric, the woman agreed. She noted that since it was a brand new product, ensuring it was actually useful was an important first step. Beaming with gratitude, the girl thanked her profusely. With her spider companion in tow, she hurriedly excused herself, her stomach rumbling for dinner. A sharp knife sliced smoothly through a thick, steaming cut of roasted meat. As she enjoyed her meal, the young tailor pondered the upcoming feedback. She decided it would be best to have the master of the house test one as well, planning to hand it over the following morning. Her quiet dinner was abruptly interrupted by a loud, urgent call from behind. The woman rushed over, her husband trailing behind her from the kitchen. She was practically vibrating with excitement, exclaiming that the new garment miraculously repelled both stubborn oil and water. Taken aback by the swift discovery, the elf listened as the woman explained. Suspicious of how perfectly clean the fabric remained after being soaked, she had used an appraisal loop, revealing the hidden enchantments woven into the threads. She eagerly inquired about the price of the aprons, hoping to purchase a set for herself and her husband. The young crafter, however, cheerfully waved off the offer of payment, insisting that the garments were merely practice pieces and a gift. Curious about the market value, the girl asked about the cost of the raw materials, explaining her ambition to eventually sell her creations at a market stall and seeking advice on pricing. The experienced woman calculated the labor involved, suggesting a minimum price of 15,000 rupees, though the young artisan humbly estimated a lower value of 10,000 per piece. Offering further business wisdom, the host recommended expanding the product line with different fabrics and colors, noting that dyed linen or cotton would remain affordable while attracting more customers. The young girl absorbed the idea of adding variations. To protect against cheap imitations, the older woman strongly advised registering with the Merchant Guild. She emphasized the importance of a maker's mark, suggesting a hidden signature tucked away inside a pocket, an idea the young girl carefully noted. Grateful for the invaluable guidance, she bowed deeply, her path forward now clear. The innkeeper warmly offered her continued support, leaving the artisan feeling inspired to purchase more fabric and design her unique mark. Stepping outside into the evening air, she felt a renewed sense of purpose, her mind buzzing with the tasks ahead. Back in her room, She sat at her desk with her spider companion, watching closely. Pen in hand, she sketched a delicate flower design, carefully writing her name beneath it to serve as her official signature. She proudly explained that the lily flower was a nod to her own name. Her multi-eyed friend praised her artistic skill, clearly impressed by the elegant design, bringing a bright smile to the girl's face. Gazing out the window into the night, she confessed her nervousness about selling her own creations, yet her determination shone through. She vowed to gain enough experience to eventually craft garments using her companion's special thread, a promise that filled the spider with eager anticipation. The little spider monster accompanied his master into the bustling heart of the Vardmoy commercial district, where merchants and shoppers already crowded the cobblestone streets. Navigating the busy thoroughfare, she scanned the various stalls, murmuring to herself as she searched for the specific location designated by the guild. Her gaze soon caught a small wooden signboard, and a soft exclamation escaped her lips as she realized they had found their spot. Before unpacking, she turned to the older man running the adjacent stall to offer a polite bow and a cheerful good morning. She explained that she would be setting up shop next to him for the next 3 days, hoping they would get along well. The man, pausing his own preparations, returned the greeting with a warm, welcoming nod. With introductions settled, she carefully smoothed out the display cloth over her counter, the weight of the moment settling in. This was her true beginning as a magical tailor. Gazing at her meticulously arranged wares, a fleeting worry about whether anyone would buy them was instantly crushed by a surge of fierce resolve. With her loyal companion resting proudly on the counter, she declared her shop officially open. Lily's shop is officially open for business. The neighbor from the adjacent stall greets her warmly, welcoming her to the bustling marketplace and wishing her luck on her first day. She presents her handmade aprons, explaining that they are not mere garments, but are imbued with special enchantments. Intrigued, the neighbor and another merchant lean in close, using a magnifying glass to scrutinize the intricate stitching and the quality of the fabric. The inspection reveals the truth. The fabric is indeed enchanted with 2 distinct types of magic, a feat of craftsmanship that leaves the onlookers impressed. They are momentarily taken aback by the price of 45,000 rubies per piece, but the sheer utility of the enchantments quickly outweighs the cost. Recognizing a rare find, the merchant decides to purchase 2 of them on the spot, including a spare. Lily beams with pure delight, her eyes widening with excitement at the realization that she has just made her very first major sale. She inquires about the logistics of the payment, suggesting a direct transfer through the merchant guild account system. The merchant agrees, asking to see her guild identification card to facilitate the transaction. The 2 identification cards are overlapped, initiating a magical resonance that securely transfers the funds from one account to the other. It is confirmed that 90,000 rubies have been successfully transferred, a substantial sum that validates the high value of her magical creations. Lily hands over the carefully wrapped goods, expressing her sincere thanks to the merchants for their patronage and support. The merchant immediately tries on his new purchase, and to his utter astonishment, the apron magically shrinks to fit his frame perfectly. They realize with a shock that this is the legendary magic thread sewing, a level of craftsmanship far beyond what they expected from a simple market stall. He and the other eager customers clamored for her attention, desperate to secure her high-quality goods. One man shouted for a denim piece, while a woman nearby requested 5 cotton aprons, the crowd's enthusiasm nearly overwhelming the small stall. Surprised by the sudden surge in demand, she could only offer her heartfelt thanks as she worked to fulfill the orders. As the sun began its descent over the town's timber-framed buildings, the initial chaos of the marketplace started to settle into a peaceful evening hum. With the day drawing to a close, the neighboring stall owner remarked on her incredible success, noting that almost all her stock had vanished. She agreed, feeling the weight of a long day's work, and decided it was finally time to pack up her remaining items and close for the evening. A quiet smile played on her lips as she realized the extent of her success. In just a single day, she had managed to earn a substantial profit. The financial security brought a sense of relief, validating her decision to share her craft with the town. Before returning to her lodgings, she made a stop to replenish her supplies, carefully selecting new rolls of fabric. She knew that to keep up with the demand, she would need to start her next batch of creations as soon as possible. Later, back at the comfort of the eagle's nest, she sat with the innkeeper to discuss her latest purchases. The innkeeper noticed the variety of new materials, curious about what the young seamstress had planned for her next project. She explained her new idea, creating specialized aprons for children, inspired by the many young ones she saw helping their parents in the local shops and eateries. The innkeeper nodded in encouragement, confirming that there was indeed a great need for durable workwear for the town's youngest helpers. While her magical sewing technique allowed garments to adjust their size automatically, she realized that children's clothing required more than just a good fit. She mused that younger wearers would appreciate designs that were not only functional, but also cute or stylish, making their chores feel a bit more special. Setting her plan into motion, she laid out the fresh linen she had acquired, choosing vibrant shades of pink and blue. The quality of the fabric was perfect for the sturdy, yet charming garments she envisioned. With a clear vision of double pockets and delicate ruffles for the girls' versions, she focused her energy on the task at hand. With a determined breath, she activated her magic thread sewing skill, ready to transform the raw cloth into something extraordinary. She puts the finishing touches on a ruffled hem, the magic thread shimmering as the small apron takes shape under her skilled hands. Holding up the completed garment, she admires her handiwork with a satisfied smile, while her companion, Tarato, watches the process with curious eyes. The following morning, she arrives at the marketplace early, greeting the day with a bright smile as the town begins to wake up and the first rays of sun hit the rooftops. To her utter astonishment, a massive crowd has already gathered at her stall, with people eagerly awaiting the new release and commenting on how prosperous her business has become. Her neighbor from the adjacent stall laughs, noting that her success is bringing more foot traffic to his business as well, which she finds heartening as they share a friendly exchange. Moving quickly to meet the demand, she begins setting out the stacks of neatly folded aprons, asking the excited customers for just a moment of patience while she prepares the display. She announces that the new children's line is available in both pink and blue for 5,000 rupees, while also informing the crowd that she will be taking a short hiatus from the market starting tomorrow. A young boy steps forward, eyes gleaming as he picks out an apron, while nearby parents praise the stain-resistant fabric and the adorable design that makes it perfect for working children. As the first wave of customers begins to disperse with their purchases, she bows politely, expressing her sincere gratitude for their overwhelming support and interest in her work. One young customer explains that the dual pockets are perfect for his chores at the greengrocer, leading her to realize that the practical needs of a garment vary greatly, depending on the wearer's specific profession. She observes the crowd, noting to herself that the ruffled designs seem to be a hit with the young girls. Above, the clouds drift lazily across the vast, open sky as the afternoon begins to wane. With the day's work done, the young tailor and her spider companion begin packing their remaining supplies, ready to head back after a successful outing. As they depart, she offers a final, polite thanks to the patrons who supported her stall. Suddenly, her eyes widen as she spots one of her creations already in use. The little girl from before is proudly wearing the new apron. The child beams with joy, waving enthusiastically and shouting her thanks to the clothing lady for the wonderful gift. This heartfelt display of gratitude catches the young woman off guard, her heart swelling with a sense of accomplishment. She waves back with a radiant smile, the sight of her work bringing happiness to others, making all the effort worthwhile. Upon returning to the eagle's nest, she is greeted warmly by the innkeeper, who is eager to hear how the day went. The two share a moment of reflection, with the young tailor humbly attributing her success to the innkeeper's guidance, though the older woman insists it was the quality of the garments that truly won the day. She listens as the innkeeper reminds her of the upcoming adventurer rank-up exam, promising to hold her room while she's away for the field portion. Grateful for the support and the warm hospitality, she offers a sincere thank you, feeling a bit more at ease about the challenges ahead. After the conversation, she retreats to her room and collapses onto the bed with a joyful leap. The thrill of her successful day at the market still lingers, filling her with a sense of accomplishment. While resting, she reflects on the deep satisfaction of seeing others appreciate her handiwork. Though she feels she is still just finding her way, she hopes her creations will continue to bring joy to everyone who finds them. The following morning, she stands before the imposing guild training grounds, her heart racing at the prospect of the practical exam. A loud announcement echoes through the air, summoning all green rank candidates to assemble for the start of the mock battles. Stepping into the crowded arena, she is struck by the sheer number of participants. While many rely on divine armaments, she knows her strength lies in her bond with Tarato, and she steels her resolve for her very first mock battle. Soon, she is called forward to face her opponent, a confident young man named Bob. As they take their positions and size each other up, the proctor's voice rings out, signaling the commencement of the duel. Before her opponent can even close the distance, the spider monster lunges, binding the warrior in a thick cocoon of sticky silk. The man gasps in shock, his weapon rendered useless in an instant. Seeing the match effectively over, the proctor declares the man disqualified. The defeated warrior grumbles in frustration, refusing to admit he was bested by a young girl, while the little spider monster looks on with a sense of smug satisfaction. While he sulks on the ground, an observer points out his fatal mistake, explaining that he completely ignored the fact that his opponent was a tamer. The proctor adds that by failing to account for the monster at her feet before the signal even sounded, his defeat was a result of his own carelessness. Having secured the win, she leans down to offer her companion a heartfelt word of thanks. The spider chirps happily, basking in the praise of its partner after their flawless teamwork. She stood victorious once more, having secured a second win with ease as her opponent proved unable to evade Tarato's sticky silk. It was becoming clear that her companion's abilities were a formidable force in these trials. However, the final hurdle remained, a direct confrontation with the exam proctor himself. He stepped into the arena, his presence far more imposing than the previous challengers. The official clarified that a total victory wasn't strictly necessary. She merely needed to demonstrate enough skill to be deemed worthy of the rank. Stealing her resolve, she checked in with Tarato, who chirped a ready response. With a sharp signal, the final bout commenced. The proctor immediately changed the flow of battle by unleashing a burst of flames, incinerating the silk Tarato had launched. As the webs turned to ash, he questioned how she would adapt now that her primary method of restraint had been neutralized. He watched the embers drift, noting that while her strategy was clever, Silk was naturally vulnerable to heat. He expected her to be flustered, but she remained focused, her mind already racing to find a counter-strategy against a magic user. Seeing an opening through the dissipating smoke, he lunged forward, confident that he had predicted her next move. He assumed she would try to lure him into a specific area, but he declared he wouldn't fall for such a simple trap. To his surprise, she stood her ground as he charged directly through the lingering heat. She didn't retreat. Instead, she called out to Tarado to deploy a net. The spider monster responded instantly, weaving a thick web that caught the examiner off guard. He realized too late that this new batch of silk was resistant to the flames that had destroyed the previous strands. Taking advantage of his momentary confusion, she closed the distance, her staff clashing against his blade with a sharp ring of metal. She told him firmly that he wouldn't be escaping her grasp this time, her eyes filled with determination. He struggled to pull his weapon free, but the specialized silk had already coiled around his arms and sword, binding him tightly. The more he resisted, the more the adhesive threads seemed to lock him in place, rendering his superior strength useless. With a heavy sigh of resignation, he lowered his head and admitted defeat. The tension in the air vanished as he spoke the words she had been hoping to hear. "I give up." He offered a small, genuine smile as he sheathed his sword, officially conceding the match. He remarked that he had underestimated the sheer versatility of spider-type monsters, acknowledging that she and Tarado were a truly formidable team. He acknowledges the clever use of both flammable and fire-resistant silk as Lily and Tarado celebrate their hard-fought victory. Lily is overjoyed, hugging her spider companion and cheering for their success. She watches as the official, clutching his arm, admits defeat and prepares to withdraw for medical treatment, but she quickly offers her assistance to tend to his burns. He watches in astonishment as she begins to cast a restorative spell, realizing that her talents extend far beyond simple taming. He listens as the young girl explains that while she has the ability, she hasn't had many opportunities to test the full extent of her healing power, thanking him for his patience. She recalls how her medical studies from her previous life, driven by her own chronic illness, have unexpectedly become a vital asset in this new world, allowing her to understand the biological principles behind her healing magic. The young girl finishes her work, and the guild master, now partially recovered, begins his formal evaluation, praising the seamless coordination between Lily and Tarado as nothing short of magnificent. He elaborates on their tactical synergy, explaining how they capitalize on each other's strengths and how Tarado's ability to set sill traps in advance gives them a significant strategic edge that most tamers lack. He also offers a word of caution, pointing out that their greatest challenge will be learning how to function if they are ever forced apart during a battle, a common vulnerability for those who rely so heavily on their familiars. He watches as the young tamer takes this advice to heart, realizing there is still much to learn about the complexities of her craft, while Tarado chirps in agreement. She thanks him as he concludes the session by announcing that the next phase of the exam will take place in the Eastern Forest, prompting a polite and determined farewell from the girl. He surveys the gathered examinees, his voice cutting through the quiet of the forest edge as he asks if everyone has finished their preparations. Lily stands ready with Tarado at her side, surrounded by other candidates who are equally tense and eager to begin the field test. He then commands the group to move out toward the campsite, signaling the start of the journey. The young tamer sets off with a determined expression, her eyes fixed on the path ahead as she and her companions venture deeper into the woods, finally heading into the heart of the forest to face whatever challenges await. She is gently roused from her slumber as a lantern's glow cuts through the darkness, signaling the start of her watch shift. As the sun begins to rise over the field exam site, she joins the others by the crackling campfire, exchanging polite morning greetings after a long night. High above them in the branches, her companion Tarado remains fast asleep, as even a monster of his caliber requires rest to maintain his strength. While they wait for the day's activities to begin, the guildmaster observes that true tamers, those capable of forming a genuine heart-to-heart bond with monsters, are a rare breed indeed. He continues his praise, noting that someone who understands their familiar's unique traits can achieve great things regardless of rank, causing her to blush at the memory of their recent encounter with an ogre. The peaceful morning is suddenly shattered by a piercing, high-pitched screech that echoes through the trees, instantly putting the entire group on high alert as she calls out for her spider friend. Responding to the threat, the now-awake Tarado bristles with intensity, sensing the approach of several large monsters closing in on their position. The camp erupts into chaos as the alarm is raised, with the guild master shouting for everyone to prepare for an imminent enemy attack by 3 massive creatures. Amidst the confusion, the proctor begins barking orders, reprimanding those with inadequate gear and demanding that the shield-bearers move to the front line immediately. Taking charge of the situation, the guild master prepares to demonstrate a vital skill, explaining how to locate hidden foes by casting a thin veil of magic across the surrounding area. He explains that because monsters possess magic stones, they will inevitably produce a reaction when magic power is spread nearby. However, he cautions that this technique also reveals their own presence to the enemy, so it should be used sparingly and only when the situation demands it, as it does now. Following his instructions, Lily closes her eyes and attempts to spread her magic power thinly over a wide area, though she finds the delicate control required to be quite difficult. Suddenly, she gasps as 3 distinct magical signatures flare up in the darkness, realizing with a start that they are already surrounded. He watches her with an impressed expression, noting that she has a natural talent for this, even as he confirms that they are indeed being encircled. The group stands tense in the clearing, the proctor and other examinees drawing their weapons as they prepare for the inevitable confrontation, knowing that fleeing in fear would only make them easy prey. Lily's eyes widen as she senses a sudden movement in the brush, realizing that without knowing the identity of their opponents, any reckless move could be fatal. Before they can react, a sudden gust or strike douses their bonfire, plunging the camp into near-total darkness and leaving the group momentarily blinded. Realizing they need visibility despite the exam's restrictions, he extends his hand and casts a light spell to illuminate the immediate area. The magical glow reveals a massive, bear-like creature with a long snout, an anteater bear, lurking at the edge of the woods. The guildmaster notes with concern that such a high-threat monster shouldn't even be in this area, and facing 3 of them at once is a task far beyond what the examinees should be expected to handle. Turning to her hidden companion, Lily asks Tarado if he can handle this, and the spider monster chirps back with confidence, ready to take on the challenge. She listens intently as Bob outlines their strategy, his expression serious. He instructs her to maintain a defensive position on the outer perimeter alongside his group until the spider's nest is fully prepared, acknowledging that her previous experience with an ogre makes her more than capable of holding the line. He continues his warning, explaining that these beasts utilize their elongated tongues to ensnare and drag their prey toward them. He advises her that if a tongue should breach her defenses, she must strike it immediately to repel the attack. She nods firmly, confirming her readiness to follow his lead. With the plan established, he gives the command to move out, and she follows closely behind, her resolve hardened for the coming clash. The silence of the forest is shattered by the guttural roars of the bears as they lunge forward, their massive forms crashing through the undergrowth while Tarado's shimmering threads wait silently above. Suddenly, a thick, muscular tongue whips through the air toward her, forcing her to brace herself behind her heavy shield. The impact is jarring, and she grunts under the sheer physical power of the beast, realizing the true danger of their strength. Seeing her opening, she calls out to her companion, signaling for the trap to be sprung. High above, the small spider monster prepares to strike as she shouts the command for the ambush to begin. She remains focused, absorbing another heavy blow against her shield as the bear roars in frustration, its predatory focus entirely fixed on her. The distraction works perfectly, and the monster is suddenly jerked backward, its massive body becoming hopelessly entangled in Tarado's sticky, reinforced webbing. She stands her ground, catching her breath as the immediate threat is neutralized. Nearby, the experienced adventurer makes quick work of his own target, his blade flashing as he ensures the monsters are no longer a threat while she maintains her defensive posture. As the dust settles, he surveys the fallen creatures, noting the efficiency of their combined tactics. The immediate danger has passed, leaving the group to catch their breath amidst the quieted forest. He let out a long, weary sigh, the adrenaline of the battle finally fading into exhaustion. Beside him, Lily slumped down, equally spent from the ordeal. He offered a sincere word of thanks to her and the spider, acknowledging that they had somehow made it through the crisis together. As the group gathered their bearings, the proctor outlined the next steps. He explained that while some officials would remain behind to investigate the unnatural appearance of the anteater bears, the examinees would be escorted back to the safety of the town as soon as the sun began to rise. Lily turned her attention to the fallen beast, wondering if they could bring it back for further examination. She asked her companion if he could use his silk to wrap the creature in a cocoon, and with a simple chirp of agreement, the spider prepared to secure the massive carcass for transport. With the dawn came the official end of the day's trials. Despite the unforeseen danger and the appearance of monsters far beyond the expected difficulty, the rank-up exam was concluded, and the weary participants were dismissed to await their results in the comfort of their homes. Back within the familiar walls of the guild, the proctor voiced his concerns regarding the incident. He noted that anteater bears were typically found much further away, beyond the mountain range, and their presence in the lower forest suggested a troubling shift in the local monster ecology. Turning to the young swordsman, the official spoke highly of the girl's performance. He admitted that her quick thinking had likely prevented a tragedy, and he proposed that she be promoted directly to the green rank, seeking the man's input on the matter. The official continued, his expression serious as he confirmed that as the lead proctor, he saw no reason to delay the promotion. The decision was unanimous among the staff who had witnessed her bravery and skill in the face of such a high-level threat. He nodded in agreement, his previous arrogance replaced by newfound respect. He told her that he would take care of the necessary administrative tasks, and encouraged her to head home and get the rest she had clearly earned. Overjoyed by the news, she turned to her loyal monster companion with a bright smile. She expressed her deep gratitude, knowing that her success was as much his as it was hers, and the two shared a quiet moment of celebration. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she looked over the spoils of their hunt. The abundance of magic stones they had collected meant they could finally afford the upgrades they needed, and she felt a surge of optimism for the future of their partnership. She stands at the guild counter as the receptionist hands over a heavy bag, payment for 10 sets of ogre horns and fangs. The clerk notes that at this rate, she'll reach blue rank in no time, but the young girl politely declines the notion, reminding her that she's a merchant, not a dedicated adventurer. With the business concluded, she turns to her companion and suggests they head home, to which the spider monster chirps in agreement. Back at their residence, she offers the monster the rewards they earned, inviting him to eat his fill. He eagerly digs into the pile of magic stones, crunching through them with gusto. Suddenly, a brilliant light begins to emanate from his body, catching her completely off guard as she cries out in shock. A mystical interface appears before her, announcing that he has begun the process of evolution and prompting her to select a path for his growth. She stares at the two options presented, the large ogre silk spider or the large mana silk spider, unsure of which direction to take. Reviewing the details, she learns that the ogre path grants a massive, sturdy body and poisonous needles, while the mana path enables the use of magic and the creation of mana-infused defensive silk. Realizing the utility of a ladder for her merchant work, she happily selects the large mana silk spider option, causing the light to intensify. As the choice is finalized, he is enveloped in a thick, protective cocoon of silk, beginning his transformation into a more powerful form. He emerges from the shimmering cocoon, his form now larger and more imposing as a large mana silk spider. Lily greets him with pure joy, and he responds with a newfound sense of confidence, confirming that his strength has increased significantly. She is eager to see the fruits of this evolution and asks if he can produce a new kind of thread. He is more than willing to demonstrate, prompting her to quickly prepare a spool for the test. She activates her magic weaving skill, guiding the fresh silk as it flows from him. The material is breathtaking, possessing a radiance and quality that far surpasses anything they had produced before. The thread winds steadily, catching the light with a soft, ethereal glow. It is clear that the evolution has not only changed his body, but has fundamentally enhanced the magical properties of the silk he creates. She examines the finished cloth, marveling at its incredible smoothness and glossy finish. It is a masterpiece of natural production, and she realizes that this silk is a high-grade luxury item that will surely command a high price. She decides that the next step is to seek professional advice, planning to visit the Tamer's Guild the following day to learn more about his new species, and then stop by the Merchant Guild to showcase the extraordinary fabric. The next morning finds her standing before the impressive facade of the Tamer's Guild. The sun highlights the building's grand architecture as she prepares to enter and consult with the experts there. Inside the guild, the staff member is stunned by the revelation. She explains that while taming a large silk spider is a rare achievement, an evolution into a large mana silk spider is almost unheard of in their records. The official elaborates on the creature's rarity, noting that they are physically powerful and possess high resistance to magic. Because they are so difficult to hunt in the wild, the silk they produce is one of the most valuable materials in existence. She concludes with a sobering warning, explaining that the ability to produce such rare silk makes her a target for kidnapping by unscrupulous organizations. She strongly suggests that she hire guards or work to raise her merchant rank to protect herself from the dangers her success has invited. She expresses her sincere gratitude for the warning, acknowledging that while Terado's presence is intimidating, staying vigilant is a necessity in her position. The official offers a warm smile, explaining that his guidance is simply an investment in a promising future member of the guild. Later, at the Merchant Guild, Sub-Guildmaster Vinch leans over his desk, his eyes wide with disbelief as he asks if the material before him is truly mana spider silk. After she confirms his suspicion, he admits that while he has seen processed items like scarves, he has never encountered the raw fabric itself, leading her to ask if he would be willing to purchase it. He explains that a transaction of this magnitude is beyond his authority and that he must consult the guild master, leaving the young girl to wonder if she should perhaps limit her production of such a rare commodity. The conversation is interrupted as the door swings open to reveal Priscilla, the merchant guildmaster of Ardmoy. She pauses, struck by the sight of a fellow elf, noting the rarity of her black hair and amethyst eyes. Quickly setting aside her personal curiosity, she apologizes for the delay and asks to inspect the mana spider silk immediately. As she unfurls the cloth, her professional demeanor shifts to one of genuine awe at the exceptional quality of the material. She offers a staggering 300,000 rubies for a single roll, but insists on performing a durability test first, catching the young girl off guard. With a swift motion, she subjects the silk to magical and physical stress, drawing a sword to test its limits while the onlookers watch in stunned silence. She brings the blade down with a sharp whistle, the steel flashing as it descends toward the delicate-looking fabric. The edge strikes the silk with a dull thud, failing to leave even a scratch. She pulls back, her eyes widening in genuine astonishment at the material's resilience. Examining the unscathed surface, she marvels that it held firm for 3 strikes without any mana reinforcement, noting that a similar sample from 30 years ago had failed after only 2. Beside her, the young weaver and her companion can only offer a nervous, sheepish smile as they witness the guildmaster's intense scrutiny. Satisfied with the quality, she proposes a purchase price of 350,000 rupees per roll, a figure so high it leaves the girl momentarily speechless and reeling from the sudden windfall. Beyond the gold, she announces her intention to elevate the girl's merchant rank to bronze, prompting a confused inquiry about why such a promotion is necessary so soon. She explains that a higher rank not only increases the perceived reliability of her goods, but also allows the guild to recommend official guards for her protection, though the employment cost would be her responsibility. While the prospect of needing guards makes her feel a bit uneasy, the young merchant realizes the importance of the guild's support and agrees to proceed with the necessary paperwork. The guildmaster's expression turns serious as she warns that Manhwa spider silk is a rarity that only appears on the market every few years, and rumors of a single merchant monopolizing such a resource could attract unwanted attention from the nobility. With a final, motherly command to head straight home for the day, she watches as the girl departs, grumbling softly about being treated like a child while her spider companion looks on. A week after becoming a copper-rank merchant, she received word from the merchant guild that an escort party had been secured. Arriving at the guild, she was greeted warmly by a staff member. The staff member, a cat-eared beastkin named Reze, led her and Tarado toward a private room, eager to make the introductions. Inside, she explained that she would be serving as her dedicated assistant. She detailed how high-ranking merchants are assigned personal staff to manage their affairs and even provide combat support, a level of service that left the young merchant quite impressed. She expressed her gratitude for the support, and the two shared a polite bow, solidifying their new professional relationship. The beastkin then turned her attention to the escort party she had selected, Wildcat's Claw. She described them as a reliable all-female group in their early 20s, a stage where adventurers truly begin to flourish and find financial stability. As the door opened, the four members of the party stepped inside. They were a well-equipped group, each possessing a distinct role and a professional air. Stepping forward, she introduced herself and her loyal companion, Tarado, to the group. In return, the party members began their own introductions, starting with their leader. The first to speak was Ahina, a sturdy warrior equipped with a sword and shield who had known the leader for years. Beside her, Akumi introduced herself as a versatile combatant, skilled with both a bow and a rapier. Then came Tomo, a young mage in a pointed hat who specialized in offensive spells. She admitted she had only been a copper-rank adventurer for a year, but was eager to prove her worth to the party. Having finished her introduction, the mage stepped back as Reze laid out the formal contract, a 1-month commitment at 5,000 rupees per person per day. Their primary duty would be to ensure her safety and assist in any necessary monster hunts. She gently advises the young merchant not to use her own extraordinary earnings as a baseline for common sense, as Lily expresses surprise at the costs involved. The girl realizes she needs to adjust her perspective to better fit this new world's economy. She observes the young merchant's surprise and notes that the party balance seems excellent, just as her assistant had suggested. The girl feels a sense of relief and excitement that the team is composed entirely of women, hoping they can all become close friends. She bows politely to the group, formally introducing herself to the Wildcat's Claw and expressing her gratitude for their future cooperation. The adventurers respond with warm smiles, eager to begin their partnership. She's presented with a formal document by her assistant, who explains that because the young merchant possesses many sensitive secrets, they will be utilizing a magical pledge paper for the contract. The assistant requests that each member of the escort party sign their names to finalize the agreement. She explains that the pledge paper is a magical item that enforces a penalty on anyone who breaks the established terms, specifically regarding the confidentiality of Lily's personal information. The girl listens intently, curious about the unfamiliar magic. She confirms the contract is complete after they sign without hesitation, noting that the Merchant Guild is clearly going to great lengths to ensure her safety and privacy. The adventurers are impressed by the level of protection their new employer receives. They look to her for the next steps once the formalities are finished, and she suggests that the adventurers move their base of operations to the inn where she is currently staying. She leads them to the Eagle's Nest, where they take in the sight of the sturdy, timber-framed building. She mentions that the rates are more affordable if they commit to a week-long stay, encouraging them to take advantage of the discount. They follow her into the inn, where she introduces her companion and explains that she provides high-quality spider silk to the Merchant Guild. She reveals that in order to produce the silk, she must feed magic stones to the creature and ask for the party's assistance in gathering more. She details the process of silk production, prompting them to recall old rumors of a reckless newcomer who had been hunting ogres since they were a mere white-rank adventurer. They finally connect those tales to the girl standing before them, their respect for her growing. She and her companions listen intently as Lily outlines the specifics of their upcoming task, emphasizing that the magic stones must be of high quality, specifically from creatures as powerful as ogres. Lily suggests a short expedition of a day or two to secure the necessary materials. Having overheard the arrangements, Reze chimes in to remind Lily that she is available for consultation at the Merchant Guild whenever needed, prompting a grateful response from the young girl. Noticing the clock striking noon, Lily realizes they have all worked up an appetite and proposes they continue their discussion over lunch, insisting on treating the entire group to a meal. The invitation is extended to Alize as well, who happily accepts, seeing it as a perfect opportunity for everyone to get better acquainted and strengthen their new partnership. With a bright, appreciative smile, the Beastkin clerk expresses her gratitude, her tail likely wagging with anticipation for the social gathering. As the group sets off through the bustling streets, Alize takes the lead, promising to guide them to a highly recommended establishment she knows well. They soon arrive before an imposing, elegant building that radiates an air of exclusivity, leaving Lily momentarily stunned by the sheer opulence of the restaurant Alize has chosen. Stepping inside the grand foyer, Alize confidently requests a private room for 6 people and 1 monster, while Lily tries to quell her rising anxiety over the potential bill, trusting in her friend's knowledge of her finances. Once settled in their private quarters, a lavish spread of gourmet dishes is served, including a specially prepared portion for Tarato, which brings a chorus of delight from the hungry adventurers. Seizing the moment of high-class dining, Alize playfully suggests that they all take this chance to brush up on their formal table manners while enjoying the exquisite feast. She listens as Lily emphasizes the importance of etiquette, explaining that poor manners can lead to being looked down upon by high-ranking merchants and nobles during future negotiations. She watches as Coco tentatively reaches for her silverware, instructing her to begin with the cutlery on the outermost side and work her way in. While she struggles with the placement, Tomo carefully handles her drink, and Lily adds that glasses must be returned to their exact spots and that one should strive for silence when using utensils. As she observes the progress, Alize mentally grades the group, noting that Lily and Tomo have mastered the basics while the others are still working hard to adapt to the formal setting. She watches as the meal concludes, and Lily expresses her gratitude for their cooperation, reminding them that these social graces are essential in this land before asking how their group first came together. After she poses the question, Coco recounts how she and Ohina began their journey as rookies in the same town, nearly meeting their end at the hands of a goblin horde while working solo. She continues, explaining the difficulties of mixed-gender parties, where unwanted advances or being viewed through a sexual lens often made things uncomfortable, leading them to seek a different path. As she finishes her tale, Akumi shares that she joined the pair a year after they relocated and officially formed their current party, Wildcat's Claw. She explains how her proficiency with both the bow and the blade significantly broadened the team's tactical options and expanded their range of activity through long-range support. Following her explanation, Tomo reveals her true nature as a foxkin, a secret she usually keeps hidden, and admits that her limited magical prowess was a source of insecurity until the others welcomed her. She and her companions listen intently as Coco reflects on their journey, explaining how their transition to a 4-person team finally provided the stability needed to accept high-stakes escort missions. The young girl expresses her heartfelt gratitude for the wonderful bond they've built, which sparks an enthusiastic vow from the party leader to make this first long-term contract a resounding success. With their mutual commitment solidified, the group concludes their meal, leaving the elegant restaurant behind as they prepare for the next phase of their partnership. Walking through the quiet streets, the 2 leaders agree to finalize the details of tomorrow's schedule once they are safely back at the inn. Shifting her focus to commerce, the petite crafter asks Alize which products should take priority, eventually deciding to provide 5 rolls of mana spider silk as initial samples. They discuss the significant value of the goods, noting that a single roll is worth 25 ogre mana stones, a profit margin that must account for the increased costs of protection. Once the business logistics are settled, she mentions having one more personal request, piquing the Beastkin's interest. The request is for a recommendation. She is searching for a skilled blacksmith who can provide high-quality work at a fair and balanced price. Her companion suggests a new shop called the Melting Iron's Radiance, run by a master from the Dwarven Kingdom who is currently seeking to establish a reputation through custom orders. The prospect of meeting a legendary Dwarven smith fills the young girl with excitement, as she views it as a quintessential milestone for any true adventurer. She arrives at the storefront of the Melting Iron's Radiance, where a cheerful young elf greets her, asking if she is looking for weapons. The young greeter introduces herself as Hanan, the shop's woodworker and engraver, and explains that she runs the business alongside a dwarven blacksmith named Taisa. She welcomes the group inside, encouraging them to browse the various blades and equipment lining the walls of the modest workshop. As the party browses, Coco mentions their status as red-rank adventurers, prompting Hanan to admit that their current stock is mostly geared toward lower-ranked green and blue adventurers. One of the warriors examines a blade closely, observing that while the craftsmanship is excellent, the materials used are clearly of a lower grade. She is impressed by the skill despite the poor resources and calls for a custom order, bringing the young dwarven blacksmith, Taisa, out from the back of the shop. The adventurer faces the young dwarf, formally introducing herself and expressing her desire to commission a weapon that truly showcases Taisa's talent. The blacksmith looks downcast, admitting that while she appreciates the praise, she currently cannot produce anything of higher quality than what is already on the shelves. She explains the harsh reality of being a low-ranked merchant. Without credit, they cannot procure high-grade materials and must rely on whatever scrap Hanan can scavenge. Observing the situation, the petite girl steps forward and asks if Taisa would be willing to forge the weapons if she provided the necessary materials herself. She introduces herself as a merchant, confidently asserting that she can procure any materials they might need. Taisa, the young blacksmith, looks on in disbelief, questioning the girl's bold claim. Seeing the blacksmith's doubt, the warrior steps forward to vouch for her, confirming that Lily is indeed their employer. Taisa stares intently at the young elf, trying to reconcile her delicate appearance with the authority she apparently wields. The conversation shifts to the girl's heritage, with Taisa wondering if her youthful looks are a result of her elven blood. Lily simply smiles and clarifies that she is 16 years old, though the blacksmith still seems somewhat skeptical of her age and capabilities. Accepting the situation for now, she leads them further into the workshop, stating that as long as the materials are provided, she can forge whatever they desire. She then asks the group to detail exactly what kind of equipment they're looking for. The party leader is the first to speak up, requesting a heavy, long-bladed two-handed sword with significant striking power. Lahaina follows, explaining that she prefers a sword focused on sharpness and lightness, paired with a shield crafted from the sturdy shell of a Gaia tortoise. The mage adds her request for a staff made from high-quality Treant materials to enhance her magic. Akumi then describes a complex set of requirements, wanting a bow and arrows fashioned from the horns and tendons of a wonder deer, along with the sharp stingers of an assassin mantis. As the requests pile up, the blacksmith begins scribbling furiously in her notebook, her expression turning from skepticism to intense professional focus. She mutters to herself, processing the ambitious list of high-grade components required for such specialized gear. She looks over her notes and realizes the sheer rarity of the items needed, including mithril, bones from metal giants or skeletons, and the massive scythes of an assassin mantis. The cost and difficulty of obtaining such materials in this region would be astronomical for a typical adventurer. She then hands over a finalized list, warning Lily that these materials are unlikely to be found in a local shop and suggests consulting the Merchant Guild. Lily thanks her warmly for the guidance, and the party prepares to depart the forge to begin their search. Once outside, Alize confirms the blacksmith's suspicions, noting that most of these rare components simply aren't available in the city's markets. Lily looks up at the guild building, realizing that if she wants this legendary equipment made, she will have to take the lead in procuring the materials herself. She considers the logistics of their ambitious project, deciding to leverage the Merchant Guild to issue official procurement requests. By sourcing more materials than strictly necessary, she realizes they can secure their own supplies while simultaneously turning a profit, a perfect way to kill two birds with one stone. However, Alize interjects with a practical concern, noting that gathering such a massive quantity of monster parts will necessitate a serious means of transport. Lily, looking at her trusty gear, wonders aloud if her own backpack might be insufficient for the task. The beastkin clarifies the scale of the problem, explaining that a Gaia tortoise is far larger than any human, making it physically impossible to carry in a standard bag. Lily absorbs this information, her expression turning pensive as she contemplates the sheer volume of the materials they are after. Seeing the group's uncertainty, she asks them to give her 1 week to make the necessary arrangements. She suggests that, in the meantime, the party should continue their routine of hunting for magic stones and living as they normally would. With a confident pose, she assures them that she will have the transportation ready, urging them to leave it all to her. The adventurers are struck by her competence and reliability as they prepare to embark on their grand journey to source the legendary materials. Alize stands before the group, her cat ears twitching with professional pride as she announces that the preparations for their rare material expedition are finally complete. She gestures toward the massive structure behind her, inviting the group to step inside the Daigo 17, admitting with a hint of nervous excitement that she has only operated the vessel once during her training. She then takes a firm grip on the heavy lever, the metallic groan of the door echoing through the hangar as it begins to swing open. To her, the sheer scale of the armored transport is a sight to behold, a mechanical beast equipped with magic cannons, a reinforced bumper, and a specialized container that utilizes space expansion and time suspension. This mechanical marvel leaves Lily in awe, and she remarks on how incredible it is to be entrusted with such a vehicle, though Alize notes that such measures are essential for hunting massive monsters. She listens intently as the conversation turns to their endurance, with Alize explaining that the transport is fully stocked with enough food and magic stones to remain operational for an entire month. They board the vessel once the final checks are completed, and soon the heavy rumble of the engine fills the air as the journey through the rugged mountain passes begins. Their speed across the landscape is breathtaking, and Lily marvels at the velocity, learning that they are moving 4 times faster than a standard magic bus. She is gently warned by Kuko 7 days later as they approach their destination, with the seasoned adventurer reminding the young elf to stay close to the group in the unpredictable wilds. Her report concludes the initial scout of the dense forest, as Kuko informs the party that while no herds were found, they must remain vigilant and pick off their targets one by one. She took charge, explaining that the wonder deer's movements were swift and linear, making magic nearly useless against them. She instructed Lily and Tomo to remain in the rear, a plan Lily accepted while promising to intervene if the situation turned dire. She signaled for the group to wait after spotting two of the creatures ahead, while Akumi drew her bow, her eyes narrowing as she took aim from the dense brush. The silence of the forest was shattered by the whistle of an arrow finding its mark, prompting a pained roar from the beast as it began a frantic, headlong charge towards attackers. As the creature thundered closer, she braced herself behind her shield, calling out the signal for the next phase of their coordinated strike. The impact of the beast's charge rang out against her shield, holding it in place just long enough for her companions to lunge from the flanks with a flurry of steel. Despite the deep gashes from their blades, the monster lashed out with renewed ferocity, forcing her to shout a warning for everyone to clear the path of its desperate thrashing. Once the immediate danger had passed, she turned to the mage to confirm if this repetitive cycle of luring the beasts with arrows and intercepting them with close-range weapons was indeed their standard hunting procedure. Observing the grueling process, the young elf began to wonder if there was a more efficient way to assist, especially after hearing that the high vitality of these red-rank monsters meant the hunt would be a long, exhausting affair. Turning her attention to her spider companion, she inquired if his silk might be effective, leading to a realization that while binding the creature's legs was difficult, sealing the magic channeled through its horns could be the key to ending the fight quickly. With a determined nod, she gave the order for him to attempt the new strategy, whispering a final word of caution as the spider prepared to leap into the fray. She stands frozen alongside her companion, eyes wide with shock at the efficiency of their small ally's intervention. Picking up the round spider, the warrior marvels at the feat, questioning if the two of them were truly the ones who unleashed such a surprising force, while the others look on in a mix of awe and confusion at the sudden victory. The fallen beast remains still as she explains the mechanics of the victory. By binding the horns with silk, the creature's magic backfired, causing a violent internal surge that knocked it unconscious and allowed for a swift, decisive finish to the hunt. With the threat neutralized, the young elf proposes they dismantle the carcass and have their companion wrap the valuable parts in silk cocoons for easier transport, ensuring nothing of value is left behind in the forest. This successful tactic becomes their standard, and over the following 3 days, the group manages to fell 12 of the formidable deer, finding the task far simpler than they had initially feared. Their streak of easy victories is interrupted by the appearance of an assassin mantis, a dangerous predator known for using its mana to fly freely and strike with precision using its massive, scythe-like arms. Sensing the shift in danger, the leader of the group urges everyone to stay alert as they prepare to engage this new, more mobile adversary, emphasizing the need for caution. The archer quickly adapts, deciding to string threads across the battlefield to counter the mantis's dreaded flying sickles, which are notoriously difficult to track with the naked eye. The battle erupts instantly as invisible blades of wind tear through the air with a sharp whistle, forcing the young elf to duck instinctively as she struggles to perceive the incoming strikes. She notices the threads catching the unseen projectiles, realizing that the silk not only reveals the enemy's movements, but also provides a way to gauge which magic will be most effective in response, potentially turning the tide of the encounter. She quickly cycles through her elemental options, first conjuring a burst of flame, but the heat fails to catch the swift creature. Realizing fire is insufficient, she immediately follows up with a stream of water. Yet this too proves ineffective against the mantis's evasive maneuvers. The assassin mantis remains elusive, its speed making it nearly impossible to land a direct hit with precision magic as it dances through the air. She notices the monster's movements have slowed slightly and wonders if lightning might be its true weakness, though hitting such a small target precisely would be difficult. Warning her companions to clear the area, she unleashes a massive, wide-range electrical discharge to ensure the agile foe cannot escape. The gambit pays off as the lightning strikes home, grounding the creature and leaving it vulnerable to a finishing blow. Her display of power leaves the young mage, Tomo, in awe, prompting Kuko to suggest that Lily teach her the secrets of such advanced magic. She responds with a humble smile, unsure if she can truly explain the intuitive way she manipulates mana, but grateful for their praise. Having secured the materials from the mantis, the group travels for several days until they reach the dense, fog-shrouded sea of trees, home to the territorial Treants. Just as they prepare to enter the forest, a massive, brightly colored moth known as a Maquilla descends upon them, forcing the party back into a defensive stance. She watches as the giant moth dissipates into a cloud of dark energy, leaving behind only a small, shimmering fragment. Reaching down, she retrieves the tiny magic stone from the forest floor, its surface cold to the touch. As she examines the prize, her companions gather around to discuss the creature's nature. Tomo observes that the stone's small size and weak mana suggest the moth was still in its larval stage, a mere pest that grew into a monster by devouring the leaves of the sacred trees. Their conversation is abruptly cut short by a deep, resonant voice that seems to vibrate through the very earth beneath their feet. Startled, they look up to see one of the massive trees shifting, its bark forming a weathered face as it thanks them for saving its kin from being consumed. Sensing an opportunity, she asks the ancient being if more of these winged pests remain in the vicinity. The Treant confirms her fears, explaining that a great number of them have gathered near the heart of the forest, under the influence of a much larger entity. She realizes that the Trants are being plagued by these creatures and sees a chance to strike a bargain. Turning to her party, she proposes that they handle the extermination in exchange for the rights to any materials they gather, hoping to find a peaceful way forward. The ancient tree agrees to her terms, provided they ensure no harm comes to the other Trants during the struggle. With a slow, creaking movement of its branches, it points the way toward the clearing where the moths have made their nest. Following the direction, the group ventures deeper into a section of the woods where the air grows heavy and the light dims. They are met with a grotesque sight. Dozens of the giant moths hang motionless from the branches like rotting fruit, a scene that makes the mages worry about the collateral damage their spells might cause. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, they press on, weapons drawn as they encounter more of the creatures resting on the forest floor. The tension in the air is thick, every rustle of leaves sounding like the beating of wings. They begin their systematic purge, moving carefully through the thicket to avoid damaging the sentient trees while striking down the pests. The forest is alive with the sounds of combat and the fluttering of wings as the infestation reacts to their presence. After clearing the immediate area, the massive Trant speaks once more, its voice filled with a somber gratitude. It commends the young girl for her efforts, acknowledging the child of man, who has brought a glimmer of hope to their beleaguered woods. She stood before the massive, weathered face of the Trant elder, who spoke with a voice like rustling leaves to express his deep gratitude. The ancient being admitted that his kind lacked any effective means to counter the moth infestation, which had allowed the pests to multiply unchecked until her arrival. Humbly, the young elf replied that the arrangement had been mutually beneficial, as her own group had gained much from the venture. Receiving a token of appreciation, she watched as the elder offered a thick, sturdy branch, explaining that it was the most he could provide while needing to conserve his mana for the forest's healing. She accepted the gift with a bright smile, assuring the ancient tree that it was more than enough and thanking him for his generosity. She and her companions then began their trek out of the dense woods as the business was concluded. The elder's voice echoed behind them, warning them to stay vigilant on their return journey and mentioning that other forest dwellers would have rewards waiting for them along the path. They reached their transport shortly after, where Reze stood waiting by the large vehicle. The young elf proudly displayed the haul of materials they had secured, her excitement clear as she confirmed they had successfully obtained everything required for their next steps. She widened her eyes as she took a closer look at the gift from the forest, remarking on the impressive quality of the wood. Upon learning it had come directly from the Trant elder, the beastkin asked for permission to examine it more thoroughly, clearly sensing its unusual nature. She confirmed her suspicion moments later, identifying the item as a rare elder Trant branch. She warned that such a precious material would cause a massive stir if it ever hit the open market, advising the group that it would be far wiser to keep it for their own use rather than try and sell it. They took the advice to heart and began the final preparations for the next leg of their journey. Reze directed the group to load the remaining materials onto the transport so they could set off toward their final objective without further delay. They soon found themselves rumbling across the vast, sun-scorched dunes of the desert. The heavy vehicle kicked up dust as it moved toward the final destination, the arid lands that served as the natural habitat for the legendary Gaia tortoise. Reze stands before the group at the guild's hangar, her voice bright with excitement as she announces that all preparations for their rare material collection expedition are finally complete. She gestures toward the massive structure behind her, inviting the adventurers to step inside the Daigo 17, admitting with a nervous grin that she has only ever driven the vessel once during her training. She grips the heavy metal handle and pulls, the massive door of the transport vehicle groaning as it swings open to reveal the interior. This mechanical marvel, the Daigo 17, is a beast of burden designed for the harshest environments, capable of carrying 9 passengers and equipped with a crane, internal space expansion magic, and even time stasis compartments to keep gathered materials fresh. Looking up at the towering machine, Lily expresses her awe that the guild would entrust them with such a magnificent craft, to which Reze explains that such power is a necessity when their targets are the realm's largest monsters. The young elf's eyes sparkle at the prospect of the month-long journey ahead, and her guide confirms that the vehicle is fully stocked with enough food and magic stones to sustain their trek for the entire duration. Once the final checks are performed, the order to depart is given, and soon the heavy wheels of the transport are churning through the dirt as they leave the city far behind, heading toward the distant, jagged peaks. As they rumble across the wilderness, Lily marvels at the incredible speed, learning from her companion that they are moving 4 times faster than a standard magic bus and should reach the Wonder Deer's habitat within a week. A week later, the group finally disembarks into the crisp mountain air, where Kuko immediately takes charge, sternly advising the eager Lily to stay close since the local wildlife poses a genuine threat even to seasoned warriors. Though their initial scouting reveals no sign of a large herd, she remains vigilant, noting that while the mission is off to a quiet start, they must remain cautious and pick off any stray monsters one by one. She takes charge, explaining the nature of their prey. The Wonder Deer are swift and move in straight lines, and their natural resistance makes magic nearly useless. She instructs Lily to remain in the rear with Tomo, as the front line will be too perilous for those without physical combat skills. Lily nods, though she adds a quiet promise to step in if the situation turns dire. Spotting a target through the dense foliage, the leader signals for the others to hold their positions. With a fluid motion, she draws her blade and lunges forward, her eyes locked on the majestic creature grazing in the distance. An arrow whistles through the air, striking the beast and drawing a pained cry. Enraged, the deer lowers its head and thunders through the underbrush, its hooves pounding against the forest floor as it charges blindly toward the source of the attack. Seeing the beast approach, Lahaina braces herself behind her heavy shield. She calls out a signal, her voice steady despite the looming threat of the charging monster. The collision is violent, a dull thud echoing through the trees as the deer slams into the reinforced metal. Lahaina holds her ground, the force of the impact vibrating through her arms as she successfully halts the creature's momentum. Seizing the opening, the group's leader commands her companion to fall back. She swings her weapon with precision, aiming to capitalize on the monster's momentary disorientation. As the skirmish continues, the archer and the shield-bearer discuss their tactical loop. They explain that the process involves provoking the deer with arrows to trigger a predictable charge, which is then intercepted by their frontline fighters. Watching from the sidelines, Tomo observes that the battle is becoming a war of attrition. She notes that as a red-rank monster, the creature possesses incredible vitality, making it a slow process to bring down. Lily listens intently, her mind racing for a way to contribute to the struggle. Turning to her companion, the young elf inquires if spider silk might be effective against such a foe. Tarato suggests that while binding the legs is difficult, they could focus on sealing the horns, which act as the conduits for the beast's magical power. Tomo is intrigued by the idea, realizing that neutralizing the horns could significantly shorten the engagement. Determined to assist, Lily prepares to move forward. She tells her friends she will give it a try, urging them to stay alert as she readies herself to join the fray. She and her companions are startled by a heavy impact as the massive beast finally collapses, its weight shaking the forest floor. Standing nearby, Kuko marvels at the effectiveness of the strategy, wondering if it was the two of them who truly set this incredible chain of events in motion. Looking down at the fallen creature, she explains that by binding the horns with silk, the monster's own magical power suffered an uncontrollable surge, knocking it unconscious before they could even deliver a finishing blow. With the threat neutralized, the group decides to dismantle the carcass and have Tarato wrap the remains in silk cocoons for the journey back. Over the next 3 days, the team proves their efficiency, successfully hunting a total of 12 wonder deer as they grow more accustomed to the forest dangers. Their momentum is suddenly challenged by the appearance of an assassin mantis, a lethal predator known for its scythe-like forearms and the ability to fly freely using magical power. Sensing the danger, Kuko urges everyone to stay alert and maintain their guard as they face this new, agile opponent. Preparing for the engagement, Akomi suggests stringing up silk lines to counter the mantis's flight, hoping to limit its mobility. As the skirmish begins, Lily watches from the sidelines, frustrated by her inability to track the fast-moving enemy, but determined to find a way to contribute. She observes the flying scythe ability in action, noting that even when the creature is partially hindered by silk, it remains a lethal threat that might only be stopped by a precise magical intervention. She grips her staff tightly, her eyes narrowed as she analyzes the battlefield, searching for the perfect moment to strike. Reflecting on her previous attempts, she concludes that fire was merely a distraction and water would be useless in this situation, forcing her to consider a more potent element. Nearby, the assassin mantis thrashes violently, its lethal sides caught in the sticky, shimmering silk threads that now bind it to the forest floor. Seeing the creature struggle, she realizes that while a precise strike is difficult, a wide-range lightning spell could capitalize on its restricted movement. Her companions notice the opening as the monster's flailing finally slows. With a sharp command for the others to retreat, she channels her mana into a devastating bolt of lightning that arcs through the air and slams directly into the trapped predator. The massive insect collapses under the electrical surge, smoke rising from its charred carapace as Ahina and the others look on in awe at the sheer power of the magic. Tomo is particularly struck by the display, her eyes wide with admiration, prompting Kuko to suggest that the young mage should learn some techniques from their leader to improve her own combat effectiveness. Though she is humble about her abilities, the elf agrees to share what she knows, sparking a moment of joyful gratitude from the aspiring mage. After securing their victory and planning to hunt more of the mantises, the group begins the long trek toward the Treant Forest, discussing the cautious nature of the tree spirits they expect to encounter. As they push deeper into the dense, disorienting woods, a massive, winged Makira suddenly bursts from the foliage, forcing her to step forward once again to protect her friends from the new threat. She watched as the giant moth crumbled, leaving behind only a small, glimmering magic stone which she carefully retrieved from the forest floor. Examining the tiny gem, she noted its lack of mana, leading the young mage beside her to conclude that the creature was likely just a juvenile that had been feeding on the local foliage. Their discussion was abruptly interrupted by a deep, resonant voice addressing them as children of man, emanating from a massive tree that suddenly revealed a weathered, ancient face. Startled but curious, she inquired if more of the winged pests remained, to which the elder spirit replied that a great many were gathered at the base of the great butterfly. Realizing the forest guardians were being plagued by these monsters, she saw an opportunity for a mutually beneficial arrangement and proposed to her companions that they clear the infestation in exchange for the spoils. The ancient tree agreed to the pact, warning them only to spare its kin before pointing the way toward the heart of the infestation, where the group immediately ventured. They soon reached a clearing where the trees were draped in a sickening number of cocoons, a sight that made the young mage worry about the collateral damage fire magic might cause to the forest itself. Without hesitation, the warriors of the group lunged forward, their blades flashing as they began the grim task of purging the parasitic larvae from the branches. As the battle progressed, the forest floor became littered with the remains of the pests, the group working in perfect harmony to systematically eliminate the threat. Watching their progress with solemn approval, the great elder tree spoke once more, commending the humans for their swift and effective intervention. He spoke with a voice like rustling leaves, admitting that his kind had no effective way to fight back, which allowed the infestation to spiral out of control. Lily, however, reassured the ancient being that the arrangement was mutually beneficial, as her group had secured valuable materials in the process. Handing over a sturdy, glowing branch, the elder apologized that this was the extent of his offering, as he needed to conserve his remaining mana for the forest's recovery. She accepted the gift with a humble bow, insisting that such a rare treasure was more than enough for their efforts. As she tucked the treasure away, the ancient tree bid them a safe journey, advising them to collect further rewards from the other forest dwellers on their path out. As the group departed, the woods seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The oppressive weight of the parasites finally lifted. Upon returning to their transport, Alize stared in disbelief at the sheer volume of monster parts they had managed to harvest. The young elf confirmed with a bright smile that their haul was indeed substantial, far exceeding their initial expectations. Noticing the peculiar wood in her companion's hands, the beastkin reached out, her curiosity piqued by its unusual aura. Lily explained that it was a direct gift from the Treant elder, prompting her friend to ask if she might examine the specimen more closely. She gasped as she realized the true nature of the item, identifying it as a branch from an elder Treant, a material of legendary rarity. Warning that such an object would cause chaos if it entered the public market, she advised the group to keep it for their own use rather than attempting to sell it. With the precious cargo secured and the materials fully loaded, she signaled for everyone to prepare for departure. The adventurers gathered their gear, ready to leave the rejuvenated forest behind and face the next leg of their journey. The heavy transport rumbled to life, turning its sights toward the final destination, the vast, sun-scorched desert. This harsh environment was known as the territory of the Gaia tortoise, the ultimate goal of their long expedition. Lily presents a pair of frilly panties to her friends, explaining they are undergarments from another world. She then reveals a matching bra, much to the confusion and curiosity of Alize, Uhaina, Tomo, and Kuko, who have never seen such intricate designs. She points out the lack of progress in local fashion, noting that despite the advancement of magic tools, everyone still wears simple, uncomfortable wraps that resemble loincloths. To her, this is a gap in the market that desperately needs filling. Determined to change this, she declares that her new shop will not settle for such primitive standards. She offers the items as samples, eagerly encouraging her friends to try them on, so she can teach them the proper way to wear these revolutionary garments. After trying them, Alize is visibly impressed, finding the new garments far superior to traditional drawers. She notes how cool and comfortable they feel, lacking the restrictive pressure she's used to, a sentiment quickly echoed by the rest of the group. Seeing their positive reaction, she confirms that these will be her primary products for general sale. Her companion reminds her that such intimate items require a dedicated women's clothing store rather than a simple market stall, and she agrees to make it her top priority. With the decision made, she suggests they head to the actual building to start planning the interior layout. Her friend is happy to accompany her, eager to see how they will turn this ambitious vision into a reality. They arrive at a grand, two-story building with elegant windows and a classic architectural style, the future home of her business. Stepping inside, she immediately begins assessing the space, asking if it's possible to knock down a wall to create a more open environment. Her guide is slightly taken aback by the bold request, but listens intently to the reasoning behind it. She explains her desire for large glass windows, envisioning a display space where passers-by can see the beautiful clothes from the street. She believes this visual appeal is key to attracting customers to her new boutique. When her companion points out that such large glass is expensive and prone to heavy fogging, she simply smiles. She assures her friend there's no need for concern, glancing toward her loyal spider companion, Tarato, who holds the secret to solving these technical challenges. She watches as Tarato works, the spider monster spinning a flat, shimmering sheet of silk that looks remarkably like glass. This creation, she explains to her companions, is a specialized board crafted from Tarato's unique silk, boasting incredible transparency and a resilience that defies both heat and magical interference. To prove its strength, Kuko delivers a powerful strike against the material, but the silk board remains completely unscathed, absorbing the impact without a single crack. Having witnessed its durability, the warrior admits she has never seen anything like it, while the young entrepreneur shares her vision of incorporating these panels throughout her new shop. Later, as they stand within the empty shell of the future store, Kuko encourages her to walk through the space and describe her vision so they can begin the transformation. They discuss the logistics of the layout, agreeing that the intimate apparel section should be physically partitioned for privacy, before finalizing the contract with a payment that sets a 2-month deadline for completion. With the shop's construction underway, the group returns to the guild, where the receptionist warmly welcomes them back from their recent travels. Their attention is soon drawn to a crowded bulletin board, where they learn of a surge in guard requests for merchants transporting rare materials across the region. However, when they meet with Sub-Guild Master Vinch, he delivers troubling news. Despite the generous compensation offered, no adventurers have stepped forward to accept the guard duty for Lily's new association. He questions the lack of interest, noting that the terms provided are far better than the industry standard, prompting a firm response regarding the high expectations placed on potential recruits. He explains the harsh reality of the market, noting that her offer of 2,500 rubis, even with meals included, falls far below the standard rate of 4,000. He warns that such a low wage will only attract the most desperate and unscrupulous individuals who have no interest in anything but money. Seeing her hesitation, he suggests that she should reconsider her position and perhaps withdraw the request entirely, especially given the current shortage of capable adventurers that has left many employers struggling. With a final, stern warning, he cautions her that turning the Jagant Merchant Association into an enemy is a mistake she will surely come to regret as he turns to leave. Nearby, the veteran adventurer sighs while discussing the situation with her companions, remarking on how the Jagant Merchant Association has declined since the previous generation left, leaving the current leadership lacking in any real talent. She turns to Lily, explaining that the association's profits are in a downward spiral and it is only a matter of time before they face financial ruin, advising the young merchant to keep her distance for her own good. The conversation shifts to the local economy, with a sudden lack of ogre materials, caused by Lily's group ceasing their hunts, has driven the cost of essential supplies like arrowheads and throwing knives to unprecedented heights, hurting other adventurers in the process. Realizing that her actions have unintended consequences, Lily listens as the warrior explains that even overhunting can disrupt the balance, leading the party leader to announce that they will resume their duties the following day. Once back in the dense foliage of the forest, the veteran warrior observes a troubling phenomenon. Despite having slain hundreds of ogres in the vicinity, their numbers show no sign of dwindling, as if they are being replenished from an unknown source. She then asks if Lily is familiar with the concept of a chaos vortex, the mysterious and volatile source from which monsters are spontaneously birthed into the world, often appearing in areas of high magical concentration. Explaining further, she notes that while these phenomena are found globally, each vortex is tied to a specific species, leading her to conclude that an ogre-producing chaos vortex must be hidden somewhere within these very woods. She explains that even if a chaos vortex is destroyed, a new one will inevitably form nearby after a few days. Lily wonders if destroying the source would at least make the monsters vanish temporarily, but the reality is far more complex. She continues, noting that while the exact mechanics are a mystery, the monster population seems to automatically replenish itself whenever it falls below a certain threshold. This explains why their constant hunting hasn't made a dent in the ogre numbers. The young elf sighs at the sheer scale of the problem, prompting her companion to add that total eradication is a pipe dream. Worse still, higher-tier variants occasionally evolve from the common stock, creating even more dangerous threats. Her companion reassures the group that there shouldn't be any such variants in their immediate vicinity, given their daily culling. If a problem exists, it's likely on the far side of the mountain where the main trade routes pass. Lily expresses a quiet hope that the local guilds are managing the situation on the main roads, though a flicker of unease crosses her face as she considers the potential danger. A few days later, the group arrives at the Vardmoy Adventurers Guild. They are greeted by the guild master, who skips the pleasantries to inform them of an urgent matter that requires their immediate attention. The guild master reveals a dire situation. Over 20 rookie adventurers have been captured and are being held within an ogre settlement. He looks to the group with desperation, pleading for them to undertake a rescue mission. He explains that the disaster began when an ambitious rookie rallied a group of 30 others for an ogre hunt, only for the entire party to be soundly defeated and scattered. The man notes that only 3 survivors managed to flee the carnage, while the rest were dragged away to the ogre camp. He officially requests that the Wildcats Claw party step in to save the captives. Lily is stunned by the report, her mind racing as she realizes the sheer impossibility of the situation. Standard ogres shouldn't be capable of capturing 20 armed adventurers and transporting them. Something far more dangerous must be at play. She listens as the guild master addresses her directly, his expression stern as he questions if she truly understands the gravity of the situation she has initiated. He continues, explaining that while she and her companions have been effortlessly defeating dozens of ogres daily, the town's rookie adventurers are being overwhelmed, leaving the guild in a desperate position after so many have refused to call for help. He is met with a look of surprise as she asks if he truly believes this is her fault, to which he firmly responds that the current crisis began with her actions. He goes as far as to threaten the group with the revocation of their adventurer ranks if they refuse to cooperate, a demand that leaves her companions visibly stunned and indignant. Their tension is interrupted as the sub-guildmaster, Vinch, steps in, sharply reminding his superior that such threats are a clear violation of guild ethics and regulations. He doesn't stop there, declaring his intention to report the guildmaster's misconduct to both the Merchant Guild and the Central Adventurer Guild headquarters, causing the older man to break into a cold sweat. While he reels from the threat, Alize turns to Priscilla, wondering aloud what has caused such a deep-seated frustration in the young elf who stands silently nearby. Having observed the entire exchange, she acknowledges the gravity of the situation and agrees that a formal complaint regarding the Adventurer Guild's tyranny must be lodged with the higher authorities. She then listens as Lily admits that while her outburst was triggered by the guildmaster's arrogance, her true desire is still to save those in danger, prompting a formal request for assistance in the rescue mission. The elven leader further explains the broader implications, noting that a sudden loss of adventurers would not only cripple the supply of monster materials, but also destabilize the town's security, creating an opening that criminal elements would be all too eager to exploit. She suggests that Alize accompany the group on their mission, but Vinch immediately voices his concern, noting the extreme danger involved in such an undertaking. In response to his hesitation, she confidently asserts that Alize is more than capable, even against multiple ogres at once. She then pivots to the financial arrangements, offering a staggering sum, 200,000 rubies for each member of the Wildcat's Claw and 300,000 for Lily herself, with an additional 10,000 rubies for every adventurer successfully rescued. Stunned by the sheer scale of the compensation, the young elf asks if such a high amount is truly acceptable, to which the guildmaster offers a reassuring smile and a firm confirmation. She then reveals the strategic reasoning behind her generosity, explaining with a sharp glint in her eye that she fully intends to recoup every single coin from the Adventurers Guild once the crisis is resolved. This display of ruthless business acumen leaves Lily in awe of the merchant's reliability, as she prepares herself for what has clearly become a monumental undertaking. Alize lunges forward, her blade cutting through the air as she engages an ogre with lethal precision. Having accepted the Merchant Guild's urgent request, the group has already faced several of these beasts on their path to the rescue. She dispatches the creature with effortless grace, her movements a blur of practiced efficiency. Watching from the side, Lily is struck by the sheer competence of her companion, wondering how someone of such caliber ended up within the Merchant Guild's ranks. They soon reach a vantage point overlooking the heart of the enemy territory, a sprawling ogre settlement nestled within the rocky terrain. The group huddles together to discuss their next move, weighing the risks of a direct assault. Akumi suggests a more cautious approach, proposing they conduct a thorough scouting mission before committing to a full-scale attack. Moments later, Kuko returns from her reconnaissance, her expression grim as she delivers her report. She confirms that the settlement is far more populated than they anticipated, with at least 100 ogres gathered below. This revelation sends a ripple of concern through the team, as they realize the magnitude of the force they are facing. Uhaina looks to the others, asking for a clear direction on how they should proceed against such overwhelming numbers. In response, Lily turns to her loyal companion, Tarado, and gives him a crucial assignment. She instructs him to weave his silk around the entire perimeter of the settlement, creating a barrier to ensure no reinforcements can be summoned once the battle begins. She then outlines the rest of the strategy, explaining that she will initiate the assault with a series of wide-range magic spells. Once the ogres are disoriented and weakened by the magical barrage, the rest of the team will charge in to finish them off. The plan is set, and the vanguard prepares to move into position. Lily watches them go, offering a final word of caution and telling them she will keep a close eye on the situation once her spells have landed. Finally, she looks down at the small spider monster by her side, reaffirming their bond. With a cheerful chirp, Tarado signals his readiness to play his part in the coming confrontation. She peers through the foliage, her eyes wide with anticipation as she observes the ogre settlement from their hidden vantage point. Suddenly, a massive ogre lunges from the shadows, catching her off guard as her companions cry out in alarm. Before the monster can strike, Tarado's silk entangles it, pinning the creature to the ground as she thanks her loyal companion for the timely intervention. With the immediate threat neutralized and the perimeter web complete, she prepares to unleash her magic, signaling that it is finally her turn to act. Raising her staff high, she chants the incantation for Thunder Rain, gathering crackling energy that illuminates the dark woods. Bolts of lightning rain down from the sky, striking the ogres with devastating precision and throwing the entire settlement into chaos. As the smoke clears, her companions approach, looking on in awe and a hint of fear at the sheer scale of the destruction she has wrought. They discuss the aftermath, with some expressing shock that she hadn't been using her full power until now, while she offers a sheepish apology for overdoing it. Turning their attention to the task at hand, they decide to confirm if there are any survivors and begin collecting the magic stones from the fallen foes. They come across the massive form of the Ogre King, now defeated, confirming that this was indeed the leader of the settlement. She stands with her companions, as they survey the quieted settlement. The leader of the group observes that the ogres were not present in this specific area, while the archer adds that they must prioritize finding the captives since time is of the essence. Closing her eyes to focus, the young mage detects faint traces of mana nearby. She points towards the source of the magical reaction, prompting the group to head toward the outskirts of the village to investigate. Upon reaching a sheer rock face, they notice a subtle draft of air emanating from a hidden crevice. It seems this unassuming stone wall might actually be a concealed entrance to a cavern. With a focused chant, she calls upon the earth, causing the massive boulders to shift and grind against one another. As the passage opens, a startled voice calls out from the darkness, questioning who has arrived. Peering into the dim cavern, the group discovers several figures huddled together in the shadows. Their leader quickly identifies them as adventurers sent by the guild, confirming if these are indeed the missing people taken by the ogres. One of the prisoners tremulously asks about their captors, fearing a trap. She reassures them with a firm voice, stating that every ogre in the vicinity has been eliminated and they should prepare to flee immediately. Disbelief turns to overwhelming relief as they realize their ordeal is over. While some of the rescuers sigh in shared relief, others urge the weakened prisoners to gather their strength for the journey back. A joyous cry of freedom rings out from them, but the celebration is cut short by a sudden, awkward realization. The rescued adventurers are completely stripped of their gear and clothing, leaving the young mage and her companions staring in stunned silence at the sight. Turning to their multi-eyed companion, she asks if he might be able to assist with their current predicament. The spider monster gives a simple, affirmative response, ready to help the shivering survivors. He begins to spin a fine, shimmering thread, expertly weaving it around the shivering adventurers. In moments, the captives are draped in soft, protective silk, providing them with much-needed coverage and warmth for their escape. He watches quietly as the rescued adventurers offer their heartfelt thanks to the group, though Lily feels a lingering sense of unease seeing them in their current state. She takes a final count of the survivors, confirming that 28 people have made it out alive, and gives the order for everyone to begin the journey back to the city. They begin the long trek through the biting cold and deep snow, the line of weary travelers following their saviors across the treacherous mountain pass. He reacts with sheer disbelief once they reach the safety of Vardmoy, stunned by the news that each rescued individual is expected to pay 10,000 rubies to the Adventurers Guild. He protests loudly to the guild staff, pointing out that the ogres stripped them of every possession they had, leaving them with nothing to their names. She steps in to clarify the situation, explaining that the fee is actually a loan deducted from their rescue reward, providing them with the funds needed to re-equip themselves and return to work. They meet with the guild master to report their findings, specifically noting that the ogre general was missing from the cave, which leads to a warning that a formal subjugation order may be imminent. She addresses her companions, making it clear that they are under no obligation to help further, but the group agrees to stay involved if there is a chance for profit and progress. It is a rare and formidable blade taken from the Ogre King, a trophy so valuable that the guild would likely be disgruntled to know the adventurers kept it for themselves. She brings the prize to the Dwarven Forge, where the blacksmith uses her specialized fusion skill to break down the Ogre King's sword and use its essence to strengthen Koko's own weapon. She listens as Koko expresses her doubts about finding a local blacksmith capable of handling the legendary Ogre King's sword. The warrior's concern is valid, as such a rare material requires exceptional skill to forge. In response to her, Hanan directs their attention to a newly established workshop known as the Radiance of Molten Iron, where a diverse team of artisans collaborates. Lily considers the plight of the rescued adventurers, hoping to find a place that offers quality gear within their limited budget. Stepping into the role of a creator, she presents a prototype of leather armor she has meticulously crafted. Taisa examines the piece with a professional eye, noting the impressive craftsmanship and the thoughtful design tailored specifically for a woman's form. The discussion turns to the practicalities of trade, with the group settling on a price of 4,000 lupies per unit. While the others finalize the deal, Lily quietly calculates the margins, satisfied that the production costs leave room for a sustainable business. Sometime later, she meets with Alize to discuss their ongoing business ventures. When asked if there are any new developments in her inventory, the young entrepreneur points out a significant gap in the local market: the standard, bulky undergarments worn by women in this region. With a confident smile, she reveals that she has brought a revolutionary alternative to replace the traditional drawers. Her goal is to introduce a level of comfort and functionality previously unknown in this world. She enthusiastically unveils her latest creation, a modern-style brassiere designed for optimal support. She explains how the garment is engineered to cradle the body without the restrictive pressure of traditional bindings, offering a sense of freedom. Following the first reveal, she presents the matching lower garment, a pair of sleek, modern panties. Alize stares at the unfamiliar shape, her confusion evident as she tries to reconcile this minimalist design with her understanding of clothing. The Beaskin's initial reaction is one of pure shock, as she finds the skimpy nature of the garments to be quite scandalous. Lily quickly counters this, explaining that the design prioritizes skin-friendly materials and ease of movement over the cumbersome strings of traditional wear. Despite the other woman's lingering hesitation, she insists that Alize take the set as a sample to experience the benefits firsthand. She highlights how the breathable fabric will be a blessing during the hot summer months, leaving Alize to contemplate this bold step into modern fashion. Alize is visibly startled, her eyes wide as she questions the nature of the modern undergarments Lily has presented. She quickly realizes their value, describing how the design provides a comfortable lift without the restrictive pressure she's used to. The Beastkin then inquires about the craftsmanship, wondering if some powerful magic was involved in their creation. They discuss the technical details, with Lily explaining that she applied specific enchantments to ensure breathability and stain resistance, while also making them virtually invisible under standard clothing. The guild official is so impressed that she dismisses the idea of a small batch, noting that 50 units wouldn't even begin to satisfy the demand from the merchant guild's female staff. Listening to her concerns, the young elf begins to calculate the logistics, realizing that providing several sets for each person in various sizes will be a significant undertaking. She is met with even more enthusiasm as Alize insists on buying every available piece to convince any skeptics of their utility. While she continues her crusade to convince the skeptics, news of the revolutionary garments spreads through the city, even reaching the staff at the Adventurer Guild. Later, back in the quiet of her room, she shares her excitement with Tarado, who observes that her new business is likely to be incredibly successful. The girl then turns her attention to the next step of the process, preparing to draft the patterns necessary for mass production. She announces her ambitious plan for the day, crafting a blouse from rare spider silk. With Tarado watching eagerly, she reflects on how her mastery of magical sewing has finally reached a level where she can handle such a delicate and high-grade material. She carefully arranges her patterns and raw materials on the workbench, preparing for the task ahead. Tarado offers a supportive chirp as she takes a deep breath, focusing her mana for the intricate work. The work begins in earnest, the needle moving with supernatural precision as the shimmering threads are woven into a fine, ruffled garment. She holds up the completed piece moments later, which glows with a faint, magical luster. It is a masterpiece of craftsmanship, and she beams with pride at the flawless result. She produces a jar of universal dye to add the finishing touches, explaining to her companion that she can now color the fabric as she pleases. She decides on a delicate palette, choosing a soft pink for the collar and cuffs while the rest will be a vibrant orange. She admires the vibrant, adorable result once the colors have set, though a sudden realization gives her pause. While she longs to wear it immediately, she knows that such high-quality enchanted gear would draw far too much attention on the streets, potentially making her a target. She makes her way to the imposing stone structure of the Merchant Guild to seek professional advice. Inside the plush reception room, she presents her creation to Alize, who stares at the spider silk garment in disbelief. She listens as the Beastkin clerk notes that carrying such a valuable item openly, rather than wearing it under a cloak or traveling with a private guard, is a bold move usually reserved for high-ranking nobles. She counters by explaining that the spider silk's high defensive properties make it ideal for discreet protection when used as a lining, which Alize concedes is a clever application. However, the conversation shifts when she reveals she has also created a prototype blouse, prompting Alize to suggest a meeting with the guildmaster. She is soon joined by Priscilla, who enters the room with a warm greeting and expresses her personal gratitude for the enchanted undergarments Lily provided previously. The guildmaster admits to wearing them herself, much to the young crafter's delight. She explains that the garment Lily crafted is far beyond a reach of commoners, being a luxury reserved only for the wealthiest merchants or high-ranking nobility. Continuing the discussion, she asks if Lily intends to continue producing items from spider silk in the future, to which the young girl gives a firm affirmation. Seeing this resolve, she notes that they must shift their marketing strategy to target the aristocracy specifically, as the current approach won't suffice for such high-end goods. To facilitate this, she proposes that they visit Marquis Vardmoy together, a suggestion that leaves Lily visibly startled by the sudden mention of such high-ranking nobility. As the implications of the guild's influence become clear, the young artisan realizes with a start that she has been under observation for some time, a fact that her companions seem to have known all along. Addressing the practicalities of the trade, the guildmaster emphasizes that an independent merchant cannot survive at this level without a powerful noble backer to provide protection and legitimacy. After weighing the benefits of safety against the loss of some professional freedom, the young girl decides to accept the proposal, acknowledging the necessity of having a guardian in this new world. Pleased with the outcome, the guildmaster promises to send a messenger to arrange the formal introduction and asks the group to wait while the final preparations are made. Before long, the entire party stands before the imposing gates of the Vardmoy estate, where the sheer scale of the mansion leaves the young girl trembling with a mix of awe and pure terror. She followed the butler into the grand reception hall, her mind racing with anxiety. What had started as a simple discussion about her craft had escalated into an audience with high nobility, a turn of events she hadn't anticipated. Priscilla, sensing her unease, offered a reassuring word, reminding her that they were all in this together. As they stepped through the heavy doors, the guild master formally announced their arrival, introducing the young artisan to the master of the estate. The group was ushered into a lavishly appointed drawing room, where the marquis sat waiting with an air of quiet authority. He looked upon them with a piercing gaze, his voice calm as he granted them permission to lift their heads and speak freely. The nobleman gestured for them to take their seats after Priscilla expressed her gratitude for his willingness to meet on such short notice. The young girl sat stiffly, her eyes darting toward the imposing figure across the table, feeling the weight of the moment. Beside her, the small spider monster remained quiet, its many eyes observing the unfamiliar surroundings with a sense of innocent curiosity. While the creature watched, the guildmaster laid out the purpose of their visit, detailing the girl's extraordinary talents and formally requesting that the marquis extend his protection and patronage to her. She argued that a creator capable of weaving garments from genuine spider silk was a rare magic tailor, a treasure that the marquis should secure before any other noble house could claim her. Her words hung in the air as the marquis listened intently. While he respected the guildmaster's judgment, he admitted his skepticism that such a young elf could possess such legendary skills and demanded a demonstration of her craft. He gestures for the demonstration to begin, and Lily, with a determined nod, prepares to show the fruits of her labor while Priscilla watches with quiet confidence. The nobleman watches intently as she unveils a pristine white blouse, its intricate ruffles and delicate stitching catching the light and revealing the true quality of her spider silk. After a careful inspection, he concedes that the rumors of her extraordinary talent were not exaggerated, much to the relief of the two women standing before him. He officially declares his approval, announcing his intention to serve as her formal patron and protector, securing her standing in the city. With the matter of patronage settled, Priscilla thanks him for his generosity and then turns her attention to the garment, inquiring if it might be available for purchase. The marquis considers this, his gaze softening as he mentions his daughters. He believes the blouse would be a perfect gift for his eldest, Ko, who is currently residing in the royal capital. When the topic of color arises, he is taken aback when Lily offers to dye the piece any shade he desires using a rare agent, questioning if such a luxury is truly necessary for a single garment. She reassures him with a bright smile, explaining that her universal dyeing agent is a divine gift and she has an ample supply, encouraging him to choose freely without worry. The agreement is finalized, and the marquis promises to send a crest to mark her as being under his protection, a gesture that fills Lily with immense gratitude as she looks toward her future. A month passes, and a young artisan meets with the owner of a construction firm early in the morning, ready to finally see the completion of her very own shop. He expressed his sincere gratitude, noting that being tasked with a shop endorsed by Marquis Vardmoy would certainly enhance his company's reputation. Lily smiled, pleased that the arrangement was mutually beneficial for everyone involved. They then prepared to inspect the results of the hard work, with a builder leading the way as Lily and her companions followed with eager anticipation. As they walked, she noticed a vacant space adjacent to the shop and inquired about its purpose. He explained that the area was a parking lot, constructed through the marquis's generosity, specifically designed to accommodate even large magic carriages. This addition was crucial, he noted, for visitors arriving from other cities who would need a place for their transport. Lily was deeply impressed by the foresight and expressed her sincere thanks for such a thoughtful inclusion. With the exterior tour complete, the group approached the main entrance of the elegant two-story building. He invited them inside, eager to show off the craftsmanship within the walls. Stepping through the doors, she was immediately struck by the grandeur of the main hall, where the polished wood and high ceilings created an atmosphere of refined elegance. He pointed out that every detail of her request had been meticulously followed, including the specific lighting arrangements designed to showcase her wares. When she asked to see the rear of the property, he was more than happy to oblige. They moved into the residential section, which proved to be just as impressive as the storefront, featuring a luxurious bath and comfortable living spaces. Lily was overwhelmed with joy, her eyes sparkling as she thanked him for creating such a wonderful home and workplace. After a final inspection to ensure there were no blemishes on the walls or floors, he prepared to officially hand over the property. Everything was in perfect order, marking the end of the construction phase. He then asked if the sign met her expectations, to which she enthusiastically confirmed it was perfect. Looking up at the storefront, she felt a surge of pride, knowing that this was finally her very own shop, ready to bear its new name. She finally unveils the name of her establishment, etched elegantly onto a wooden sign, Lily's Spider's Cotton Cloud. It is a name that honors both her identity and her loyal companion, marking the official beginning of her new life as a shopkeeper. With the sign in place, she raises a fist in a spirited cheer, her heart racing with anticipation for the grand opening. Surrounded by her supportive friends and the ever-present Tarato, she declares her determination to make the shop a success, while the group shares in her infectious excitement for the Inside the nearly finished shop, Kuko approaches Lily, asking if there is anything she can do to help. Lily, appreciative, asks her to move a stack of clothes to the counter. Kuko readily agrees. She carries a box filled with folded garments while Lily watches with a gentle, satisfied smile. As she works, Kuko advises Lily to make sure she rests properly, pointing out that staying up too late is bad for her health. Lily, looking a bit flustered, acknowledges the truth in her words, but seems hesitant. Beside them, Tarato also seems to encourage her to rest. Later, tucked into bed with Tarato, Lily quietly resolves to rest properly once things have settled down. The day of the grand opening arrives. Kuko notices Lily's tense posture and asks if she is nervous. Lily admits she is, confessing her fear that the shop might not succeed. Kuko simply laughs, reassuring her that everything will be fine. To prove her point, Kuko details their business plan. They will operate for 3 days, go collect magic stones for 2, and then take a day off. She explains that considering the amount of silk they'll sell to the Merchants Guild, they'll have more than enough money to cover guard fees, taxes, and living expenses. Just then, Tomo appears, announcing that it's almost time to open the store. Her sudden arrival startles a preoccupied Lily. Lily thanks her friend. With renewed determination, she declares that it's the first day of business, and she will welcome all customers with a smile. In a burst of supportive energy, her friends, Kuko, Tomo, Uhaina, and Akumi, toss her playfully into the air with a cheer. Sometime later, the excitement has passed. Lily and Tarato sit quietly by a window. A soft, content smile graces her lips, but it soon fades into a more distant, contemplative expression. She rests her chin on her hand, a melancholic expression on her face as she stares out the window of her empty shop. Beside her, Tarato lies quietly on the counter. The quiet is suddenly broken by the sound of the shop door opening. Startled from her thoughts of having no customers, she looks up in surprise as a cheerful beaskin woman, Alize, steps inside, greeting her warmly. Lily, caught off guard, offers a hesitant welcome. Recovering her composure, she rushes forward with renewed energy, spreading her arms wide in an enthusiastic welcome for Alize. Alize asks if Lily is visiting on official business from the Merchants Guild. Lily clarifies that she's there for personal shopping, curious about the items in stock. A pleased Alize thanks her and gestures towards a fitting room, encouraging her to try on anything that catches her eye. The offer surprises Lily. She asks Alize if it's truly permissible to try on the clothes, noting that this is not a common practice in this world. Alize confirms Lily's assumption, explaining that it's not standard practice. She elaborates that even she, who often buys new work clothes, can't try them on beforehand and must simply imagine how they'll look. Lily then wonders about the availability of mirrors for customers. In response to Alize's predicament, Lily beams and declares that, of course, customers can try on clothes in her shop. The declaration leaves Alize momentarily stunned. Alize's surprise turns to delight. She comments on the unique yet simple and comfortable-looking designs and eagerly asks if she could try on multiple items. Lily happily thanks her for the interest. Alize tries on a dark top with crisscrossing straps, asking if she has it on correctly. Lily assures her it looks wonderful and suggests pairing a specific skirt with a cardigan. Alize marvels at how good the fabric feels, and Lily proudly explains that she paid special attention to the materials. With a large pile of newly purchased clothes before her, Alize expresses her satisfaction with her shopping. As Lily thanks her for the purchase, Alize offers words of encouragement for the new shop, to which Lily gives a determined yes. She stands in her new shop when the door chimes, announcing the arrival of a new visitor. A woman with short, light-toned hair and a professional air steps inside, offering a cheerful greeting. The woman approaches the counter and introduces herself as Melanie, explaining that she has come from the Adventurers Guild to conduct an inspection. Lily welcomes her warmly. As Melanie looks around, Lily clarifies that she sells not only finished clothing, but also items like leather armor and gauntlets, adding that it serves as good practice for her magic tailoring skills. Her professional gaze falls upon 2 seemingly identical pieces of leather armor with a 4,000 rupees price difference. She asks for the reason, and Lily explains that the more expensive one is enchanted with both defense up and magic resistance up, making 2 enchantments for that price a great deal. Impressed by the value, Melanie then glances around the empty shop and asks why there are no other customers. With a slightly sheepish smile, Lily admits that Alize was her only visitor so far. Hearing this, Melanie thanks Lily for the tour. She promises to spread the word about the shop when she returns to the Adventurers Guild, recognizing that perhaps the business just needs more publicity. That evening, Lily sits with her friends, discussing the day's events. She mentions that while Alize's purchase of over 10 items was profitable, she was the only sale. Her friends reassure her, certain that word will spread quickly at the guild and business will pick up. Alize, also present, chimes in to praise the quality of Lily's clothes, expressing her complete confidence in them. With the day's work done, the group exchanges goodnights before heading to bed. A few days later, the shop is bustling with customers. Lily greets Melanie at the door, thanking her for visiting again. She happily reports that thanks to Melanie's promotion and Alize wearing the clothes, many people from the Merchants Guild have come, alongside a good number of adventurers. Melanie smiles, observing the new clientele. She notes that adventurers are buying the durable, thick clothing for protection, while regular townsfolk are still hesitant due to the high prices of the new, unbranded items. As she muses on this, Lily welcomes her warmly. She beams, thanking Melanie and attributing the shop's recent success to her promotion. Melanie, however, demurs, stating that she was simply acting with the adventurer's best interests at heart. She continues, explaining that female adventurers often find it difficult to shop at regular armorers. Because their position is often perceived as weak, they are frequently overcharged, making essential equipment prohibitively expensive. Lily listens, a look of concern crossing her face as she learns of this harsh reality. Changing the subject, Melanie's expression brightens as she announces that it's her day off, and she's come to do some shopping. She asks to browse, and Lily happily encourages her to take her time. While browsing, Melanie finds herself impressed by the wide selection, which even includes undergarments. She holds up a particularly cute, frilly pair and asks what kind of occasion would call for such a design. A flustered Lily is taken aback by the question, replying that one simply wears them based on their mood for the day. As she speaks, the shop door opens to reveal Hanan and Taisa. They call out a cheerful greeting, surprising Lily, who quickly welcomes them. The two friends take a moment to note how busy the store has become. Hanan marvels at the sheer number of colorful clothes available. Taisa, meanwhile, inspects a rack of garments more closely. She notes that the colors aren't monotonous and the designs are excellent, predicting that at these prices, the clothing is sure to become a massive trend. She adds a word of caution, however, warning that if the shop becomes too popular, it might draw unwanted attention from competitors. A blushing Lily confides that she secretly uses a versatile all-purpose dye, which is why the clothes are so cute and colorful, but she limits production to just a few pieces to avoid conflict. Upon hearing this, the ever-practical Taisa immediately points out that the material cost for such a dye must be exorbitant. Her gaze also falls upon the various leather armors on display as Lily offers a slightly strained laugh. Hanan steps in to clarify for Taisa, explaining that Lily keeps her expenses down by meticulously using every last scrap of the material she buys. With a nod, Taisa indicates that she understands the clever efficiency. Later, Melanie observes the bustling shop and notes that with the recent increase in customers, restocking must be a constant struggle. Lily confirms this, admitting she and Tarado haven't had a break in some time. Seeing her fatigue, Melanie asks if they are both taking the day off. While taking a break, Lily visited her friend's shop. Taisa explained that their connection to Lily has been a great fortune, allowing them to restock their products for a week thanks to the advertising from Lily's party. She mentioned they were using their break to come see Lily's own shop. Hanan chimed in, agreeing that their relationship with Lily was a blessing. She added that because Alize had recognized their skills, they were now able to get monster materials supplied to them directly. Lily expressed her relief that they were profiting, then mused aloud that a good location would be ideal for them. Hanan agreed, but pointed out that, more importantly, their current equipment was old. She then turned to Taisa, asking if it would be all right to inquire with Alize on their behalf. Taisa, taken aback, asked if she was sure. Taisa reasoned that selling equipment to adventurers is a reciprocal business, so there was no harm in asking. She accepted the offer, thanking Lily. Hanan smiled warmly, thanking her for everything. She proposed that they all go to the Merchants Guild together on her shop's next day off and offered to provide services if Lily ever needed more equipment made. Sometime after, Hanan and Taisa ended up moving into an old building on the street behind Lily's shop. It required significant renovation, but it was within their budget, and Lily was happy to have them as neighbors. A few days later, Lily was hanging a closed sign on her shop door. As she did, she was startled to find Marquis Vardmoy standing before her. She quickly apologized, explaining that the shop was closed for the day, but the Marquis announced that he had brought her an escort and instructor. She stared in utter confusion, the words escort and instructor echoing in her mind as she managed a simple greeting. The woman in the knightly uniform stepped forward, introducing herself as Jenna, the fourth daughter of the Schelling family and a knight in training. The maid followed, stating she is Tanya, having served the Vardmoy household for 15 years. Both formally requested to be in Lily's care. The knight, Jenna, presses for an answer from a bewildered Lily, who stammers, completely taken aback by the sudden development. From off-panel, Marquis Vardmoy's voice cuts in, stating bluntly that Lily's knowledge of the nobility is far too shallow. He continues his lecture, explaining that any misstep she makes will reflect poorly on him as her backer. He warns that her tendency to casually handle priceless items without any sense of caution will attract those who would even kidnap her to obtain them. His expression is stern, his concern for her naivety clear. For that reason, he declares that Jenna and Tanya will serve as her instructors on all matters concerning the aristocracy. The Marquis elaborates on their qualifications. Though Jenna is a new knight, her experience as a noble's daughter will be invaluable, and Tanya has experience attending meetings with nobles, making her ideal for teaching manners and negotiation. Lily, standing beside Tarado, understands from the atmosphere that this is not an offer she can refuse, though she recognizes its immense value. Jenna then speaks up, requesting that Lily, as their new master, address them more casually. Tanya agrees, asking to be called by her first name as well. They both bow their heads slightly, formally pledging their service and wishing her well. The Marquis addresses the logistics, confirming they have brought their belongings and have funds for any other necessities. When Lily enthusiastically offers them each a spare room, Jenna politely declines, insisting that one room for the two of them will be perfectly fine. Accepting their decision with a bright smile, Lily agrees and begins to lead them upstairs. As she reaches the landing with Tarado at her side, she looks back with a warm, happy expression. She muses to herself that they've suddenly become a large household, wondering if everyone is really so worried about her. She floated above the rooftops, a sense of growing liveliness filling her thoughts. With her household expanding, a welcome party seemed appropriate. She decided then and there to go buy the necessary ingredients. Beside her, Tarato chirped in excitement at the mere mention